There we go. Jeez, look at my hair. How you doing? Morty, we gotta go back to the future. Who is this crazy man on here? Josh Turner, PRTpodcast.com. Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. That is the email address. That's where the magic happens. That's the good time number. My friend, call me. Crazy names. Let's see. Howdy, Wolf. Thank you. Thank you for saying howdy. Hope you had a good break this weekend, Josh. I guess. Saturday, I didn't do anything. I didn't leave the house. Saturday, I decided to just hibernate and watch Hulu and Netflix things that I don't normally get to do a lot of. So that's what I did. Watched a few funny shows. Disenchantment's funny. We just finished that one. And a couple other shows we watched. We do have a couple guests coming on. Let me make sure I get my moderators in here. All right, so we wanted to start at 7:30 and it didn't happen, but we are planning to start the show an hour earlier. We're going to start trying to bring the show to you about 7:30, at least going into the future. We're going to start doing that. We have to. We just have to, because I got to get out of here before it gets too late. My wife is cruel. She beats me, folks. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to sit here and tell you the absolute truth. My wife dresses me in these ridiculous shirts, and she hits me a lot. And if I'm not home by a certain time to rub her feet and draw her bubble bath, she's violent. I'm an abused spouse. Not gonna lie. I'm crying right now, if you can tell. I'm very... So anyways, everybody that knows is like, yeah, okay, dude, whatever. Probably wouldn't feel bad for me even if she did. You'd probably be like, oh, you probably deserve it. Here's the thing, dude. I have a couple stories for you, but I don't want to give too much away because we have a whole bunch of stuff planned that we're going to record now that Barton has had his big shindig where he invited a bunch of people over to his house. I was one of them. I didn't get to go because I had things to do, I had things to do Friday, things I had to do yesterday, but but Saturday, like I said, I didn't do anything. But they had a big get together, and apparently one of his guests had an encounter out in the woods. Okay, and I know her, and so I'm going to talk about that at some point on the show. I don't know exactly when. Thank you for those donations. Let's not forget that. Jonathan Droller, thank you so much. Artistic Bunny. We definitely appreciate them, especially with the money we had to pay back on the credit cards from the conference was it was quite a lot. It was quite the congratulations to everyone who received merch. Congratulations to everyone that won. If you were on here and you received merch, feel free to thank me in public. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. I'm just messing with you. Somebody accused me of that. They're like, you give away a lot of stuff so people will like you and say good things about you. And I'm like, I've never once asked anyone to post a picture or told them to say anything about anything. There are many people that have gotten things and I've never said a damn word about it. So I get really tired of hearing crap like that. And if you really think like that, well, shame on you for being stupid. Because I don't do things to get something out of it. If you're living your life trying to do things to get something out of it, then what good are you as a person? It's pathetic. But people think that everyone thinks like they do. If you're a thief, you think everyone steals. If you're a liar, you think everyone's telling lies. You know, if you're an abuser, you think everyone's, abusing. I mean, it is true. It's these people, they really believe that people are like, that the world is like in their weird little scope, I was on the phone late last night with a friend of mine, Anne Celine, and we were talking, and Nellie had to get on the phone and do a couple things, so she kind of ran off and whatever. Me and Ann were talking, and one of the things that came up was just about the mind, body, and soul, the mind, body, soul connection, and how the soul literally powers the mind, and the mind powers the body, and the body delivers. And one of the conversations I got into on Saturday with one of my listeners, we weren't arguing anything like that, but he just was asking a few questions. People do it all the time. If you're a friend of mine on Facebook, don't be shy. Send me a message. The least that could happen is I don't answer. Doesn't mean that I don't like you. I'd have time to answer you in a timely fashion, but I try to get to everyone eventually. So the easiest way to talk to me is through Messenger. Now, if you want to hit me up on Instagram, I'm Josh Turner 940 on Instagram. That's the number they gave me. I know somebody said, "Oh, that comes to 13. What's that?" I don't know. That's what they gave me. I guess Instagram thought, "Oh, this guy's spooky. Let's make him 13." I don't know. The hell, the Instagram police decided to give me that number. They're like, "What is your name?" Josh Turner. Josh Turner 940. That's your name. Okay, 940, whatever. So they, that's what they gave me. I never fought it. I just said, okay, whatever, I'll run with it, whatever. So Josh Turner 940, it doesn't mean anything, it's just a number. But some people have questions. This one guy, he asked me, he says, what are your thoughts on the physical versus the spiritual? Everybody has there's a lot of talk about that. There's like this whole thing going on. I dare call it a movement where people are starting to move away from just believing that these things are flesh and blood, or like me and Linda Godfrey had proposed multiple times, that they are a type of thing that comes from from another place. I call it the fourth density, and then they become more physical as they are here in this third density. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be killed, they can't bleed, they have to eat, they have to do whatever that happens as when you're living in this realm. You have to be a part of this realm. And that's a theory that we kind of came up with, Linda and I, a while back, years ago when we talked. And it was actually something that was shared, that maybe me, and a former guy that I used to work with had kind of thought, maybe this is correct, but he didn't let that come out on his show. He had his own reasons for whatever. And I'm not going to bash the guy. I'm not going to even fight with that guy or talk about that guy anymore. I don't care. Okay, he is what he is, does what he does. He's got a huge following. People are always going to follow him. I get that. We'll see, what the future brings for everyone and in this community, and how much people actually will begin to grasp and understand the nature of our reality. But one thing I will say, and I was talking to Ann about this last night, is that we are all spiritual beings. When you break it down to its base, whatever, we are spiritual beings, and we are having a physical experience, and they are no different. They being the others, whether you're talking about Bigfoot, Dogman, gnomes, Goatman, whatever, trolls, goblins, it doesn't matter. They can manifest as physical. Doesn't mean that that's their true form, because that's not our true form. This right here is not our true form, ladies and gentlemen. So when I try to tell people, look, what we are dealing with is in the spirit. And it is that we are actually dealing with these other beings. I believe that they come from the fourth density, or that's where they live. Think of the fourth density as an intermediate zone, the lower astral plane, as between the third, our third dimensional world, and there's their realm, and then the fifth density, which is like lighter. There isn't even a body. They're just balls of light. There are energy balls that float. I mean, it's unless you were to see it, or you could go there, it's hard to, you can't explain it to somebody. It's just really hard for them to grasp. So what I propose is that they're just as spiritual being as we are. If we move into, which you do upon death, you go into the fourth density and then you go into the fifth density. If you shed this physical form, then you become just like them. They're able to go back and take the physical form back. We don't do that. Now, some would argue that we do, and some would argue that our militaries and governments around the world have figured out a way to do that. It's possible. People ask me that. Now, this person this weekend asked me this question, and it gave me a thought. I thought about it, and I thought, my response to him was very simple. Man, you stupid, man. Get out here. Don't be talking to me, man. And I blocked him. I'm just kidding. I didn't actually do that. I did call him stupid. In a playful way. No, I just said, look, they are just like we are. They're a spiritual being, and they're having a physical experience, because our base form, our true form, is not this physical being. They take on a physical flesh vessel just like we do. It's like jumping into a car. There's my brother. He just said we are spirits in a material world. Thank you, North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project, for that donation. Thank you, Pat Murphy, for the donation. Thank you, everyone that donates. We definitely could use it at this point. I'm not asking, and it's not expected. It's just appreciated deeply. So what you're dealing with is these beings. I'll give you a story, okay? And this is one that came out of Fresno, California. Now, I was talking to an individual not too long ago about the Fresno night crawlers. And we kind of started talking about, and it got into, and he claimed, well, him and his girlfriend, I guess it would actually be him. It was him and his girlfriend's brother, is what it was, or her stepbrother, something like that. They saw something back in 1993 that came out of a weird, the only thing I could describe it as a goo portal. Shotzi 67, thank you so much. That is really cool. And that's a cool robot too. Hippotron, that's pretty cool. Thank you for that donation. That's awesome. But it was like this. It was like a weird reddish swirling, and it had like streaks of green in it. And they said it was just weird. It just kind of like developed. And they're walking along this trail, and they see this thing just not like slow, dramatically crawl out. It'd be interesting to say it was like no, it just kind of hopped out, and then the thing was gone. The circle. Vortex, whatever they were calling it, a vortex. I would say a portal, because I think a portal and vortex are two different things. That it actually faded, like, and then this thing just took off on the trail, totally ignoring them. It had nothing to do with them. So, hey, this is my wife. What are you doing here?
Working.
Oh, okay. So you decided to come. I told you not to come when I'm doing my show. I'm cleaning my room. And I was definitely not talking about how you hit me. So my wife showed up. So one of the things that was interesting about this encounter, that it was a small little creature. And they said it wasn't big. And now I talked last weekend about one that I called a little changuito. Like that was good. It means like little monkey. But it was like a little white hairless monkey looking thing. Webbing on it and stuff. And so the kids were throwing fruit at it. Well, this one was a little different. This one was like if you had to put in terms of the description that I got, it was almost like a juvenile. I would say it was a juvenile because they said it probably was the size of like a little small teenage kid. And it had a big old bulbous head, and they didn't get a real good look at the teeth. Maybe the mouth was closed. I don't know. And it jumped out and it ran, and it freaked them out, and they turned and they ran, and but you do have these stories of these night crawler type things that have been around Fresno. Those stories have been around for a while. Have you ever heard of those, Nelly? Mm-hmm. Fresno, yeah. So this person gave me that story. So I'm thinking, is there a connection there? Well, here's another one. I got a couple more before we get into the first guest here. this one was really odd, and I thought that, and I was thinking, like, how weird. This one happened right outside of Thorndale, and I got a couple, all right? But this one was in between Thrall and Thorndale. Or no, I'm sorry, Thorndale and Rockdale, my bad. And now, this person I've known for years. This happened to them when they were young. Them and their sister actually went to my high school for a little while, and we were talking the other day, just catching up. Hey, how you doing? How you been? Blah blah blah. And this person said, I had a weird story I wanted to tell you, and so we talked briefly, and it was they gave me the information, a person's information. So I got in touch with that person. We started message. They said one time, this happened back in 2009, they were driving down the road, and actually, Nellie knows where this is at. You remember the Sulphur Springs right there, where I told you people used to go and bathe because it was healthy?
Yes.
Right there, they saw right there by the Sulphur Springs, this thing, which is close to, I think, Brushy Creek, like this thing came up out of the water. And it popped its head up, and they thought, and they were just driving by, and it was broad daylight. It was in the evening, but it was still, they could see, it was daytime. And it was him and his wife, and they were coming back from dropping off a trailer in Rockdale. There's a lot of ranch land out there. Out there is ranch land on one side, and then the other side's kind of farmland. Thorndale is weird. It's kind of like, it's where the farmland slowly becomes ranch land. Rockdale's all ranch land. Thorndale is ranch land and farmland, and then everything all the way up to Austin on 79, you can go look it up on the map, becomes farmland with spattering of trees and things like that. And I've actually talked about the history of that area before. But there's a lot of weird stuff that's been seen over the years there. So this person, they are, I guess they would be at this point, the great uncle of a friend of mine. But he said, I remember it like it was yesterday. We were driving along. We had just dropped off a trailer, and we were coming back, and we see this thing, and then it stands up. It just stands straight up right there on the side of the road. And it looked like the head of it looked almost like a frog, which was really weird. And then like it had a body like a human, but it was almost like a frog type thing standing up on its legs, on its hind legs, not like a lizard, more like a frog, like he said, but it had an upper body, was a little bit muscular with thin arms. And then it kind of got down and it jumped a couple times. And then they see this like blurry looking thing. It didn't have any color. It was just like a blur, like a blurry whatever. And the thing jumped into that and was gone. Boom. Like as quickly as they saw this thing, the whole encounter was nothing but several seconds. And they saw it. And him and his wife. And then he's like, dude, that was the day we quit smoking drugs. And I told him, I'm joking. And John, I was going to make that joke. So I'm not talking crap, all right? So anyways, I talked to this guy. He's cool. I've known this guy. He used to drink with my great uncle, so they're cool. It's cool. But they don't. He was like, I wasn't drinking. I wasn't coming from Brush Creek Bar. He goes, I was dropping off. I was completely sober. And he's not a drunk. And it's him and his wife. They don't. I think they might smoke cigarettes. I don't know. But that was it. And he goes, I know what I saw. And I was talking the other day to a colleague of mine. I'll just tell you, it's Ken. We were talking the other day about Linda Godfrey and her, I Know What I Saw, and she has a book she wrote, I Know What I Saw. And when we talk about these cases, it was like people tell you, I know what I saw. There is no somebody convincing you that you didn't see what you saw because you know what it was. You saw it. So you have two cases there. You have the one from Fresno from 1993, and two guys walking, and they see this thing come out of a portal that looked like one of these pale humanoidal crawler dealies. And then this frog-looking creature that came out of the springs right outside of Brushy Creek. Both things, portal-type things. One is jumping into one is jumping out of one. I mean, does that, if that's not enough, I got another one for you. But first, I have to go and lock. I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'll be right back, folks. Just give me 2 seconds. It will take me 2 seconds. Don't leave. Don't go anywhere because I got another story. There we go. Just had to go and check on something real quick. Anyways, so told you I wouldn't take too long. Now, here's another one. Now, I know people have heard of Goatman, and I've done a deep dive on Goatman. And I can tell you this, there are a lot of stories about Goatman. Maryland is a hotbed of Goatman activity. If you ever read about Maryland, for some reason, seems to be the stronghold for that creature. I don't know. But this one actually came out of Dogman territory. It was in Michigan. It was near Coldwater. Now, what's even crazier about this story is that... Okay. Really? I banish you to the gorge of eternal peril. This is cheap, crappy, and not cold water, folks. This is like something Ken Gerhard would give me. But anyways, I digress. The thing is, these people were driving down the road, same thing, and it was a real quick story. It's not like it was super long. The connection is that it just stepped out of thin air. But it wasn't out of thin air because there was a swirling grayish black. This is in daylight too. And they were 90% sure what they saw looked like a here. It looked like a good goat-headed creature, not a dog, a wolf-headed creature. This was not something that looked like a. It didn't look canid, and it was tall. It had the leg. It had everything. Like it was, it was a goat-looking creature, and it was holding what looked like a dual-sided axe. An archaic looking like axe. Now, that's what I think it was. They said that it looked sharp, and then on one side it might have been dull or something. And from what I gathered, it could have been like an axe on one side and like a mallet on the other. They saw that very quickly. The passenger and the driver didn't agree completely on what it was holding in its hand, but it was some sort of weapon in its right hand, and it was brown colored. And it had the head of a goat. It wasn't one of those human-looking heads with the beard and the horns. You could get those too. It was and Nellie's over here nodding her head. She knows what I look like when I wake up. Anyways, this thing, it looked very much like a goat-type creature. I mean, like I got an absolute description on this thing. This was in 1997. And it was right outside of Coldwater. They were driving, and they were like, "Did we just see a humanoidal goat creature?" These people had no interest in the paranormal. They were not into any kind of anything. And it was given to me by somebody who actually was talking to me one day about Taylor, Michigan, and how Taylor in Michigan and Mississippi and in Taylor, Texas, and they all have weird stuff. And we were talking about the connection. He said, "You know what? I have somebody who used to be a trucker, and they were driving through Michigan, and I can get you a story." And all it took was a couple months. Trent, thanks for taking so long. Anyway, just joking. I'm just joking. But yeah, it was, a couple months go by, and I get the story finally. I'd already forgotten about it. I was like, "Who are you again? What is this crap?" But no, I got the story, and I always wondered about that. I thought, that's definitely Dogman territory, but, Goatman seems to make his appearance. If you take the Devil's Backbone and you break it down into Bigfoot on one side, Dogman on the other, and then there's Purgatory Road where you see Goatman. He always, like we were just talking about Linda, she says, and she said it on my show, he just sort of pops up as a third party, like, "Hey, here I am." Why is that? It's very bizarre. It is a weird phenomenon, but behind this thing was a greenish with black swirls that was moved. From what they said, it looked, the passenger got a better look at it and said that it was like swirling counterclockwise. And I don't know if that means anything. Appalachian Tales of Terror, Jim Bland says, "I'm trying to get Elijah Henderson to get you, Barton, and him on my show. I know Elijah personally. Actually, Elijah tried calling me today. I was very busy. Elijah, if you're listening, call me back after the show. Yeah, okay, that's fine, Jim. But Darren Castle says there's a Kentucky goat man not far from Louisville. It's on a railroad bridge too. Yeah, and then of course you have the one in Texas, here in Texas. You know, and was it Denton? So you get like this, you know, goat man just kind of popping up. But the point is you have 3 different types of what Barton Lindley would actually call an inhumanoid. One looks like a frog, one looks like a goat, and one looks like a pale humanoidal crawler. 3 different parts of the country, and they're all popping out of some sort of portal. Well, let's go back over this again. If you go to the frog-looking creature, it was like a blurry portal-looking thing. It jumped into it, like almost like a heat signature. And then the goat man was greenish black, which I've discussed this, like I said, with Linda before, and I've discussed this with Barton about these green mist. I got into it on my show. Me and Lon Strickler talked about it too. These things glowing silver or green. And then you had the weird thing that the humanoidal pale crawler dude crawled out or came out of. It was almost like a red looking portal. Now, if you go back to the episode of the Serbian werewolf, same thing. This thing is coming out of a portal. It's halfway out, and it's grabbing a woman, trying to pull her into it. I couldn't imagine something more terrifying. I mean, not just being grabbed by a werewolf would be horrific to imagine, especially if you're a female. You know, I'm not saying it's much better for a guy, but at least a guy, you're kind of like, you know, come on, get off me, man. I hate riding the subway. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know, public transportation, on the bus in Austin, it happens, you know. It happens, folks. You could get groped by a werewolf, a vampire. You never know. A gremlin, it's like Men in Black or something on the bus. But anyways, so you got this woman getting grabbed by this thing on the stairs. And Nellie, I know you know about this investigation. You want to say hi to the audience?
Hello.
Say it louder.
Hello.
Louder?
Hello.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Hello. 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 That's from Nellie, folks. I told him what you did to me earlier. I was so help me. I love you. Yeah. So, anyways, when you look at this situation, like 3 different creatures, 3 different portals, but and the portals are different color. Now, I'm not saying that they're, you know, but there's got to be a connection, especially when you're talking about, you know, different parts of the country. Now, why there's different colors could be the atmosphere. It could be the location. Like there was water near one of them. Now, here's another interesting thing. When the cold water episode happened, I believe it was in 97. I think that one was, 97. It was kind of rainy. So maybe that made a difference in the color of the portal. The creature was brownish white, kind of looked dirty. The crawler deal was dry. 1993. So, you know, I mean, they're years apart from each other too. It's not like it was just all happening in one year. But anyways, give me your thoughts on those. Those are pretty weird. You know, I don't know. I can't tell you how many times I get stories like that and they say, well, I was just driving along and something just appeared out of nowhere. Maybe it appears out of nowhere, or maybe it's stepping out of a portal. I have no idea. But anyways, I'm gonna hit up a friend of mine. make a call real quick, and then I'm going to have another person come on and a guest, and we're going to talk with them. But let's get this person going here. Let me read the Patreon. Adam Jinx, Andrew, Brady Matsunaga, David Vigil, Debbie Wolf, Dorothy Metcalf, Elaine E., Enid Kinley, Fat Squatch, Jason Paul Tyson, Jim Kovach, Joyce Brunette, Kevin Scott, Maynard W., Melissa Michael Turner, Nova, Pam Willard Wittes, Polly G., Peter Haralamos, Ricardo Ramirez, Ron Cox, Sir Paul, Stacy Southwell, Stephen Rivas, Tim Bernard, Titan, Vicky Walker, Barbara Blindy, Charles Hamill, Clevisaurus Rex, Corey Elliott, Curtis Turner, Cirilli, David Allman, Dead Man Walking, Derek Tribble, Dick Richards, Gloria Smith, Graydon McKee, Guy, Helder Ortega, James Estrada, John Gee, Julie Shearer, Kenny Irish, great author, by the way, whose book has been doing great, The International Cryptids, which I wrote the forward for. Christy, Mark, Melissa Koyman, Mimi Piccolelli, Pauline Rome, Ricardo Herrera, Shonda Hardinger, Sana Girding, Super Hornet 1, Susan Woodcarver, Taylor, Alexandra Orick, Terry Fusler, and Tracy Bond. Those are the people that help the show do what it does. Keep on moving. So let me make this call real quick, folks. Let me try again. We'll get this going, folks. When all else fails, threat and brute force usually work. I'm kidding, folks. Just threats. You don't have to use brute force usually.
Hey there.
Hey, Lyle. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man.
How you been? Haven't talked to you since, well, we've messaged, but we haven't spoken since the conference. How you been?
Right, pretty good. Yeah, I've been, doing the move all my life to a new place, so I'm kind of almost done with that, so catching up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And so you got a lot going on. So let's start with the very first, most obvious thing. How was the conference? Did you enjoy our conference?
I did. I really enjoyed it. In fact, that was, in my opinion, one of the best cryptid conferences I've been to for several reasons. One, just the subject matter is one that hasn't been explored as much in conferences. And, I learned so much. There were so many fantastic presentations that I just sat back and listened and, learned a lot of stuff. And obviously there were some witnesses and things like that. And, heck, everything well organized. The food was great. All the people there were just having a great time and appreciative of it. So, and it was in a great location. So I just really thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I enjoyed it. And now, folks, this is Lyle Blackburn. We rode together from Fort Worth. It was like 10 hours, and then we rode all the way back. So I think me and Lyle got up to speed on each other's life story It's pretty interesting. You are a very interesting man, like a very interesting person, and I'm not just saying that. Like, you know, I really enjoyed our talk on the way down there and on the way back, and Lyle can attest to this. I was already going to quit. And I was like, you know, I was thinking, hey, I'm looking at like writing, you know, this book, you know, and then going from there. And I was getting, you know, advice and information from Lyle about how to write, because Lyle, I think you're a very good writer. Now, that brings me to my next point. And of course, folks, I didn't quit because Lyle begged me all the way. He's like, please, Josh, you're the best. You're the best around. Yeah, it was all this music playing in my head, but, you know. And then Lyle was like, are you okay? No, but we did talk, and I was like, hey, man, I'm going to quit doing the podcasting for a while and all that, and I'm gonna write books. Well, we get back to Lyle's house, and you had, what is it called, like the advanced copy or whatever of your new book?
Right, yeah, a proof copy of the new book.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to tell the folks about that?
Yes. So, in fact, yeah, you were literally, besides me, you and Ken were the first people to see it. It's my upcoming book called Texas Bigfoot, and this is sort of the definitive, I guess, history and modern, you know, legends and modern sightings of Bigfoot in Texas, which, if people are familiar, I mean, Bigfoot is big in Texas, like everything else, and I think a lot of people don't realize sometimes the enormity of the Bigfoot sightings and how far back they go. And of course, the eastern portion of the Piney Woods, you know, is very, very much Bigfoot territory, but even in the other parts. So, you know, over the last decade or more, I've just been putting away stories and sort of filing the history so that this book could be written. So I'm pretty excited about it. And, you know, no one's really ever put together sort of that great overview of the history of Texas Bigfoot. So that's what I did.
Yeah. And it was cool. The cover had like the Texas flag, and it was awesome because I was up in your haunted bathroom while you guys were downstairs looking at the book, and you actually waited until I came down to open it. So I appreciate that. That was really cool. And we all got to look at it, and I thought, man, this is awesome. I get to see this, be one of the first people to lay eyes on the new book. And then, of course, me and Ken had a drive back to Austin, which was quite interesting too. Because Ken and me were both so tired. We were delirious. I mean, and we were just getting into Fort Worth. We were pretty darn tired. And yeah, you kept me awake with your a lot of things. People don't realize how like you're an English major, and I learned that about you. And I was like, holy crap, that's why you're such a good author. And you're a very well-rounded individual. But you do have, in your old, at least what is now your old house, you had two mirrors that were facing each other. And I've gotten stories from people who've had we used to work at a place called the Renaissance here in Austin. And we don't work anymore, but there was an area where we got weird reports from some of the people there, and it was from two mirrors facing one another. And so there is something to that. But you said, as far as you know, there was never anything in that house, right? It wasn't.
No, I never really had any weird experiences. That house, you know, I mean, I'm trying to, especially when I moved in for some time, I was trying to be observant. But yeah, just sort of just nothing going on. However, in the new house, there's already been some weird stuff. So it can't just be me making it null and void, because actually the new house, the previous owner is deceased. And so, of course, I was, had my radar up, and there's been some few weird things going on here. So I'm trying to, just suss out exactly what's going on.
Well, you can tell me in private, and I'll tell the stories. I'll change your name from Lyle to Lyle Lee. That way, nobody will know it's you. Lyle Lee Black Bernie. Nobody will ever get it.
They'll never know.
They'll never guess. But it was interesting when we were driving. Now, here's crazy stuff. For me, it was like very entertaining. We were driving through Arkansas, folks, and as we were getting closer, like we went through Texarkana, And Lyle knows all about the murders that took place there back, in Texarkana. It started, in the late 60s, was it?
That was 1940s.
The 40s. Okay, yeah. Okay, there we go. See, that's how tired I was. Because I had when everybody stayed at your place, I slept in a haunted hotel down the road from your house.
That's
and
right.
I'm not even joking. Me and my wife had both a weird experience. And when we got up, we were just like, we're out of here. And then when I talked to the guys, I was leaving, he said, yeah, on that particular floor, he couldn't tell me exactly which rooms, but he said that there had been people who had complained of weird things happening. It was a very nice Hilton, but I told you about that, and I had a restless night. And so when we were driving and we were going through Texarkana, there was a movie that was made about it. It's called The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and Lyle has done some studying on that. And it actually, there was a park that you drive right through on that highway going to Tennessee where we were headed. You go clear across Arkansas, and you had talked about how one of the murders had taken place in that park. And then as we got further along in Arkansas, of course, you did a lot of research and studying the Fouke monster. And that kind of has been something that you have done deep dives into. Now, I want to ask you a question, and if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about it, but I just want to ask you this, okay? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask this question. Now, did you see something one time when you were out there?
Yes, I did. And this was a little over a year ago. I was, and this location is near Boggy Creek, home of the legend of Boggy Creek, long history of Bigfoot sightings down in what is the Sulphur River bottoms. And where we drove on the highway, it looks very modern and metropolitan, but if you were to go about 15, 20 minutes off of that, you're going to be down in those bottoms, and it's still a wild, rugged place. And anyway, so I was down there one afternoon, and I was stopping into an area where a place called Mercer Bayou, some of the spookiest kind of traditional swamp area down in there. We were on our way to actually interview a woman who had captured a really good howl, presumably, one of these creatures. And we were just down there, and we were looking at a couple of cypress trees that had been notable in one of the old episodes of Monster Quest that my buddy was in. And all of a sudden I saw something sort of catch my eye, like maybe a shadow moving, maybe about 75 yards off. So I kind of focus in and I look to see whether it was just a play of light and shadows off the tree, or whether it was, something moving. And so I look and I kind of see it again, and then seconds after that, I see something about 15 yards behind that move in a diagonal direction across a clearing, and it was quite red in color, like reddish. Whatever it was big enough to be, this wasn't something near the ground, and I couldn't quite see the full shape, but whatever it was moved across this clearing and disappeared into the trees. And I immediately was like, what the hell was that? And this was notable for a few reasons. First, just where we are, it's a long history of sightings of the creature, but also there's no people over there. You have to cross this channel, which is full of alligators, and it's just the bottoms down there. That's not property owned by anyone. It's owned by the Wildlife Management Association, and there's no trails. It wasn't a four-wheeler. It wasn't a car. It wasn't a person. Ironically, we had been up at the Monster Mart store prior to that, literally 30 minutes before that, in which one of the locals that I've kind of know this guy, who said, look, I saw the dang creature a few days ago. And he said that he thought it looked a lot like an orangutan, at least in color and build. So when I saw whatever this thing was being red, I might have dismissed it a little more out of hand. However, this guy had literally, had told us this. And, there we drive another 7 or 8 miles down south into the bayou, and lo and behold, I saw something red. So it was a pretty cool moment. And while I can't say I 100% definitely saw the monster, it's definitely possible. And we're going to head back to that area and do more research. We have, and we will continue.
Yeah, because we had talked about this, and I told you that my wife had a better look at it, but we may have seen a Sasquatch, years ago. I think it was in 2017 or something, 16. Or no, it would have been 17. Near this area called Roe Lane, and I just saw the back of it, and it was reddish brown, and my wife got a side view of it, and she swears up and down it was a Sasquatch looking type, ape looking creature. And of course I don't ever claim to have seen Bigfoot, because I'm like you, I saw a glimpse of something. Not like when I saw the Dogman, it was like dead on. I saw it was there. But so I don't know. I don't ever claim that I was someone who's seen a Bigfoot, but I think you saw it. I think you saw the,
Yeah.
So I mean, but kudos to you, because you don't go around saying, "Well, I saw this," and making a big deal out of it. And you told me, and I thought that's crazy. I mean, you saw something that a lot of people go out looking and never, but it's so, that area, like you said, it's alligator infested swamp. And it's like it's so dense, and you're out there in areas where people just don't go, and so it's easier. Go ahead. What are you going to say, Lau?
You're right. You're exactly right. I mean, I've camped down there many times, and the only two, I go with 1, 2, maybe 3 people, 4 people max. We're the only ones down there. I mean, and you might see a game warden. You might occasionally see somebody come down there and put a boat in the water and do some frog gigging. But there's just not people out there. And we didn't have a boat that day, and we went on to interview that lady who had the howl and everything. But we came back there since and went across that water in the boat, because you can't walk across there, and I had never been on that side right there where we were. Just to look, and I mean, there's no trails, there is no roads, there's no 4-wheeler tracks, there's nothing. And we kind of reenacted the distance, and I put my buddy up, and I can just tell you, yeah, there's no people. So I don't, other than possibly a ape-like creature that's got reddish hair. I don't know what else to to say it was. And it wasn't a fox, because it was much bigger than that.
Yeah, and that's interesting. We had a very good time, even though it was a long drive. Me and you talked pretty much all the way down there and all the way back, and just about all kinds of things, and going over different cases and some of the funnier stories that in the chat right here, somebody says here, Carl wanted to thank you. He says, my grandfather Ron Denny was from Arkansas and talked about the wild men stories and the story about the town that dreaded sundown. Yeah, and that was Texarkana. And he also said that he wanted to thank you for the signing the book. Hey brother, great show. Going to tell Lyle, thank you for signing my copy of American Monster Tour. I sent him a copy of the American Monster Tour.
Cool.
Yeah, he won one of the giveaways. So that's one of your fans there. So your new book. Now, where do we get that? Where do we get the new book?
Well, it'll be in the usual places, basically, on Amazon, and then autographed copies from my own web store from LyleBlackburn.com. So I'm actually, the release date was actually October, but I think it's gonna get it out here sooner than not. So I'm just been working on approving the proofs and getting it wrapped up, and then so hopefully here in the next week or so, at least get a pre-order going, and it might get up on Amazon. So yeah, pretty soon.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's cool. It's Texas, and I'm really looking forward to getting that. The other thing I was going to tell the audience. Now, there's a couple things me and Lyle got going on. We are up for we got nominated by Paranormality magazine, but it's if you go and you vote It's paranormalitymag.com. Anthony, you want to put the link up there for everybody that wants to vote? Tell them what you're up for, Lyle.
Let's see, my fairly new podcast, Monstro Bizarro, is up for Best New Podcast, and it's also in the category of Best Cryptid Podcast. So, which is pretty cool, and all those listed are, you know, quality shows and my peers like yourself and others. So, you know, it's just an honor just to be even mentioned, because like my podcast is so new. I'm just thinking about trying to get an episode out, much less win an award. You know.
Well, you got the Blackburn name. I mean, you know, and pretty much everything you've touched has turned into gold. So I mean, like, you actually made a good hot sauce. Like, folks, I'm not the kind of person that, like, even though Lyle's my good friend, if he made a crappy hot sauce, I'd be like, that sucks. I'm not going to eat it. And I would be the first one with my big mouth to be like, sorry, Lyle's a great author, he's a great musician, but his hot sauce sucks. No, his hot sauce is actually good, and I have some in my fridge, and I actually ate some 2 days ago. And, you know, so it is actually very tasty. He has a very good hot sauce. And then you also have, like you said, a new podcast, and in your category is different than my category. So, folks, go and vote. Vote PRT and Monstro Bizarro, because I'm up for Podcast of the Year in the 40 category. So somebody decided to put me in the 40 category, which is fine. I thought I should be in there for cryptids and interviews and just being good looking, but whatever. People have their own views of what is good looking. And another thing too, your girlfriend. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yes, that was, I'd forgotten about this, but my girlfriend Ashley had submitted to this this new contest for Face of Horror. It's sort of like a girl that I don't know. It's going to be in a movie and all sorts of stuff, but so she told me today, you know, you can actually vote on this or whatever, and she's currently like rated 5th or something in this contest. So there's actually a link for it on my Facebook page, on my Lyle Blackburn Facebook page, and also my Lyle Blackburn author page. But or you can go to faceofhorror.org, and she's Ash Blackburn, and yeah, you can vote for her, and it would be pretty awesome because, like I said, she just came across that because it was through Rue Morgue magazine, or they were associated with it. And I'm like, well, you should send your picture and fill out that, you know, your interest in horror or whatever. Who knows? And then all of a sudden, she's like up at 5th place right now. So I'm like, hey, this is cool. So yeah, those links are on my. Yeah. She is. I don't want to, you know, boast, but yeah, she's beautiful, and her photo looks great on here, so I think she should win, you know.
Yeah, and you used to write for Rue Morgue, isn't that correct? Rue Morgue?
I did, and so at first I thought this would be a conflict of interest, but the only thing is they're going to run something about it. It's actually through this Face of Horror, so I think there's no conflict of interest, and the votes are the votes. So.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with her, but just you did, right. You know, and that's one of the things we talked about too, was like how long you've been writing, and with me writing my book, and you giving me advice, and Ken helping and talking to me, and Barton and everybody, I'm in pretty good company when it comes to getting this done. I'm hoping to have it done by Christmas. I know that sounds ambitious, but I think we're going to get it done. And I got some, you know, I talked to you about some of the things I don't like when I read certain books or certain authors, and we talked about, and you said, hey, that's a good habit. You told me that I had some good habits when it came to that, so that made me feel good about writing too. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. At least he, you know, gave me some good advice, and I don't do some of the things that you have a pet peeve with, so that's good. Right? I mean,
and we did have a long the opportunity to talk. And, what you were telling me about your thoughts about the book and the approach and what you like or didn't like, it sounded great. And, one reason, if this is your first book, the thing is you've read a lot of books, and that's also what makes a good writer, is somebody who's read numerous books, because that's, your brain is picking up on the things that you like most and how they're presented. So I think, you can do this, and I think being ambitious about a finishing date, and that's the only way these things get done, because a lot of people will say, oh man, I really want to write this book. Well, the only way to write a book is do it, so that's great.
Yeah. And so we had a great time, and everybody vote. Make sure that you go out and vote for me and Lyle so that we can win. Because we're really cool people that need it to win. So I'm just kidding. We're cool people. Yeah, it was a great time at the conference. Now you're going to be in Jefferson, right? Mid-October.
Right, yeah, the annual Texas Bigfoot Conference in Jefferson, Texas, which is always a great time, one of the best Bigfoot conferences out there, and in beautiful, scenic East Texas. So that's one, if you're into these subjects and want to come hang out and hear some cool, Bigfoot presentations and meet like-minded people who love cryptids. Yeah, this is a great conference, definitely.
Yeah, and that will be, the 14th and 15th, is that correct? I think that's correct.
Yeah, I was
talking to Craig yesterday. Let me see.
Yeah, I kind of forget. Let's see. Yeah, 14th through 16th.
14th and 16th.
Yeah.
So I'll be there. I'm actually going to be flying Barton. Barton's afraid of planes, so he says that if the plane crashes, he's going to curse me with his dying breath. But I told him, never fear, you probably won't die. So I told him that I'm going to fly him down, and she's gonna go with me, and we're gonna go to the conference. And Ken will be there too, Ken Gerhardt, and you'll be there.
Awesome.
And I'm sure it'll be a great time. So yeah, I was actually just messaging with our mutual friend Craig Woolheater, who puts it on every year. So, folks, if you want to see us, we'll be at the Jefferson conference. I won't be speaking up on stage or anything, but I'll be there in support of my friends, and Barton's going to be there, and so it'll be a good time. That's Lyle Blackburn, everyone.
Great.
And Lyle, I'm glad you got done with your move.
Yes, thank you. I'm kind of getting back on track here to buckle down and get ready to, got to do the Mothman Festival coming up, and then get ready for these other conferences and get my book out. So I'm getting almost back to full speed here to juggle all the good stuff I got going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so keep me posted though, and we can talk in private, but keep me posted about your house, because you may have moved into a haunted house, spooky house. So
that's right.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked before. You said you thought it'd be cool. Well, I can tell you. I mean, there's some haunted houses that are like, and then there's other ones that are like, oh, this is horrible. But hopefully yours isn't the latter. It's the former.
Right. So far, so good. Well, I guess we'll see as time goes.
Yeah. Okay, Lyle, I'm going to let you run, and I'll see you in October.
Okay, sounds good. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. There you go, folks. Lyle Blackburn. All right, bye. So that was my friend Lyle. I rode with him all the way down there and all the way back to the conference, and we had 20 hours of conversation. So and he was actually one of the first people talking to me about, hey, if you want to quit, that's what you want to do, then, I'm supportive, whatever. But if you just want to write and you need some help, whatever. But between him and Ken and Barton and all my friend Nick Redfern, people that I can consult with about this, and I'm having had consulted with many other authors and friends over the years, D.A. Roberts, Ron Murphy, Linda Godfrey, Lauren Coleman, Lon Strickler, I'm not throwing names out there. I'm saying these are people who I can talk to or I have talked to about writing, and because I want to do it, I want to get it done right. And Ken is being instrumental in helping. We think that we can get this done by December. We're moving along quickly. I've got Ken and Barton actually helping me to interview people and talk to people, getting it done so that we can get this thing out by Christmas. And I'm not joking. I know it's just an ambitious project to say, hey, in a few months, I'm just going to have a book out, and I don't want it to be a pile of garbage. Okay? I want it to be something that you're going to be able to have me sign, and if you pay for it, you're proud of it. It's something that you're like, hey, I'm proud that I have this book, and it's, it's not just some bull crap. And then I'm going to start on my next one, because we're already beginning maybe a dual project between me and my wife. She's a good author too. I mean, not an author yet, but Nick Redfern told her at dinner that she would make a good author. Now, Nick was drunk, and I did slip him $50, but that's beside the point, dude. Okay, he said it, and I'm joking, Nelly. That did not happen. I did not give him 50. It was like 60 or something. But anyways, I really think that this is going to work out, and I think that it'll be the first of hopefully many, because I want to do this. This is something I want to do, and when it's done, it's done. Also, my friend, I want to give her a shout out, Anne Celine. She wrote a book. It's called Aperture in the Veil, and we were talking last night. I've had a conversation with 3 different of my colleagues. I'm going to embark on a series of interviews of alien abductees and doing shows about alien abduction. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. It's going to be a project with me and Daniel Jones. Daniel Allen Jones, if you don't know, he's the one that videoed all of the speeches. Here's another good thing. These speeches from everybody, Dave Wedley, La Blackburn, Nick Redfern, Ron Murphy, D.A. Roberts, everybody's speeches, Ken Gerhardt, Nick Redfern, not mine, but everybody else's, will be available. We're going to drop them on the Paranormal Round Table YouTube channel. Now, here's the funny thing, or weird thing. The only one that's not going to be available on the Paranormal Round Table channel is mine. Because the way YouTube works is Daniel was originally going to drop them all on his channel, then put them on mine, and then I talked to him about it, and I said, if you do that, YouTube could say, hey, you're using someone else's work, even though it is my speech, because he had it on his channel, and sometimes they'll give you, hey, do you want to respond to that, whatever, and then sometimes they just won't. So we just decided he already dropped mine on there. So if you go to the Vortex, you can see me doing my speech on there, but it won't be available on my channel. So he has it on his channel. Go check it out. The Vortex, Daniel Allen Jones. He's a great UFO researcher, and I watched him speak at the not this past weekend, but the weekend before. Me and Ken went and we supported him along with Anne Celine and Nellie. And we were there. Ryan Edwards, the author, was there. Chris James, another great author, was there. We were all there, and we supported him, and we watched him do his presentation, which is funny. It's funny too. And I was recognized by a few people in the UFO community, so that was cool. And I got a couple of people that came up and interviewed me, and I did tell them that I was from another galaxy and that's why I'm here, to make this stuff more interesting for everyone. So anyways, that being said, it was at the mall. It was called Wonderland of the Americas Mall. That's what it was. So anyway, there was some great speeches there. Daniel Jones was there. Like I said, we're going to be doing a project together. We're going to be collaborating. I'm working on a bunch of different collaborations now. Me and Barton are going to be recording now that he's done with his shindig for Labor Day. It's time to get to work, Barton. This week, we're going to be starting the interviews. Hope to get 3 or 4 done this week. Hopefully 4 or 5 next week. And then by the end of September, we will have it all ready to drop. Because another ambitious project of mine, and I'm hoping to drop all of this on you for October. so that you'll have 10, 12 episodes of PRT goodness and spookiness to enjoy for October. And then I will be going to Craig Woolheater's event, 14th and 15th, or 13th, whatever, 14th, 15th, 16th, whatever days it is, in Jefferson. I'll be there hanging out, and Barton will be there along with his wife, Letitia. I'm flying them in, and we're all going to get together. And myself and Nellie will be heading to Jefferson. Lyle Blackburn will be there. It should be a good time. So if you're so inclined and you want to buy tickets, I think there's I don't know if there's a link I can stick on there, but I'll put the link up to Paranormal Round Table. And you guys, if you want to go to Jefferson at the Bigfoot conference, they have many different packages and deals. There's going to be like a dinner and some other things. So I'll talk to Craig. I didn't have a chance to talk to him today. We messaged each other yesterday, but we'll talk again tomorrow and we'll work it out. But yeah, so it'll be a good time. Another thing that's happening is we hit 3,000 members on Barton Nunley's group Inhumanoids. And he took over for Tony, who was an absentee landlord, Paranormal Encounters, and he was completely broken up when I gave the group to Barton. He was all like, okay, thank goodness, because I didn't have time for it. That was his response. So he's not upset in the least, and he feels like a burden's been lifted off of him. Now he has more time to play video games. Yay! So anyways, Inhumanoids with Barton Nunley, go join. It's on Facebook. It's a Facebook group with him and Letitia, his wife, and me and Nellie. I think Anthony might be an admin in that group too. But anyway, just go check it out. It used to be Paranormal Encounters. Now it's actually doing something. It's Inhumanoids with Barton Nunley. We hit 3,000 members over the weekend. I think it may be Sunday. I made the announcement. So that's good. That's growing. So go and support that. And be looking. Barton is trying to finish up the book, The Spotsville Monster. Now I need people to just really ride him and aggravate him so that he gets it done. Because I am personally waiting to read his and Lyle's new books. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this, okay? So that's what's happening. Now, you give me 2 seconds. I got to go run over here and grab something from the office real quick. And I'll be right back. And then we're going to have a guest that's going to come on and talk about Dogman and Bigfoot. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. Oh, my eyes. All right, I had to grab something. All right. One of the things I was going to tell you, I am going to be doing a show, probably a standalone episode that's going to be dropped on the podcast. Now, I have 2 different ways I can do this. It's up to you guys. I have one that I call Unwanted Passengers. If anybody out there has a story about this, and I have 3 really good ones, but I was thinking, I don't know if those will be good enough for just an hour-long episode, but has anybody ever heard of people having things in the back of their vehicles? Now, it's happened to my wife's sister It's happened to my business partner, one of my business partners, and I got one recently that it is bone-chilling scary. I'm not joking. It was really scary. When they were telling me the story, or not, what they were not telling me because they typed it, messaged it to me, and I read it. I thought, this is scary. So I got some that I would like to do, and there's a couple others that I'm kind of, but I could always use more. But if anybody has any stories about like seeing something in the back of their car, looking over your shoulder and you see something there, or if somebody tells you, hey, there's somebody in the back of your vehicle and then they're not there, message me, hit me up, because I want to do a show about it, because it is one of the most disturbing things, and it has actually happened to me. I'll tell you what happened to me. It's not a real long story. I was driving along, and this is no joke, and I was literally, somebody popped up in the back seat of my vehicle. And I was all like, oh, whoa, I was like, when I stole this vehicle, I had no idea that there was a person sleeping in the back of it. I had no clue. So I just pulled over and I jumped out as this woman is like screaming for David, her husband, whoever he was. And I'm like, ma'am, I didn't know that when I stole this vehicle that you were back there. Okay, this is not a kidnapping. It was just a carjacking. Wasn't supposed to be a person. I'm kidding. I don't know. She was like, Mark, David, John, I don't know, somebody's name. And I freaked out and I lost my nerve, I was 17, I'm kidding. I was not actually committing Grand Theft Auto or kidnapping. I'm joking. Right? But no, it did actually happen to me once. I was actually working at the nightclub that I work at now. And of course, I contributed it to living in this house that was haunted. And when I was, and I'm not joking about this, I'm serious. And I was like going over the bridge of William Cannon. There's like railroad tracks right there. And as I get over it, I see movement in the back, like I'm driving and I see movement in the back seat. And I'm like, whoa, what the heck? And I look back and I had an old blanket back there and it just kind of like moved, like it dropped like real quick. And I was just like, and so I got so freaked out. I just like went over to like the next lane over and then pulled into a parking lot and sat there for a minute. And I jumped out and I looked in the back and I was like, whoa. And I had a flashlight, and I'm like, what in the heck is going on? And it took me a few minutes to grab my bearings and to get into the vehicle and continue on. Like I said, it's not a real long story, but it did happen to me. And so I know multiple people who've had little quick things like that happen, But if it's happened to you, or somebody who that's happened to, something, weird like in the vehicle, because I've heard of haunted vehicles too. I even got a story not too long ago after I had talked about this on the show about people dying and their vehicles going into the tow yard. Somebody sent me a message, hey, you want a story? This one was out of Kansas City, and they worked in the tow yard, and they said, hey, there was a vehicle that was brought in and they believed it was haunted. And that's a whole nother story. But I was just like, I was fascinated by that. I thought, that's crazy. But I do want to do a show about these encounters. And like I said, I got one that I was talking to my wife about. I think it was last night we were talking about it. But it scared the crap out of us. It was pretty scary. And so anyway, something to think about if you guys know anybody, because before I drop that episode, I would like to get a little more, input, more people, who've seen these things happen, had these things happen to them while they're driving, or, had a story from one lady that this was in Hawaii, and they had rented a car. As they're walking into the car, they see a person sitting there, like looking down with their head down. It looked like either they were asleep or they were deceased or something. And as they got closer to the vehicle to look, the husband was like looking. They were terrified. They were like, this person maybe is either on drugs or something. And as the person lifted their head, they just disappeared. They were just gone. And they were just like in shock. Like, what in the heck? Well, apparently, from what the wife found out from one of the people the rental car people who took the vehicle, a person had actually OD'd in that vehicle. And he was like, look, I'm not supposed to talk about this, but it actually supposedly happened. And when they told this couple, they were like, well, we don't want it because we just saw somebody that maybe it was the person that had happened to. You know, they couldn't say for sure, but can you imagine that? You rent a car and then you're walking out there and this person just vanishes and you're like, okay. Yeah, I would freak out. I'd be pretty aggravated too, especially if somebody knew about it. You know, I mean, whatever. I mean, you know, it's weird. But anyway, Amy, thank you for that donation. Matt Keene says, yeah, I've had something similar. Thank you for that donation. Everybody who donated while I was on the phone with Lyle, I appreciate your donations. Don't think it wasn't appreciated. Don't forget to vote for us and for Lyle for his podcast, Monstro Bizarro. We're not in competition. We are actually in two different categories. So you can vote for us and also for his girlfriend through Rue Morgue magazine. So yeah, so we're gonna call another person. We're gonna get him on the phone here. And let's get it going. Hello?
I'm here.
Okay, Carter, how you doing?
All righty.
So you sound... So it's just gonna be audio. So you sound though a little bit distorted. I don't want to go ahead and speak again. Say something, Carter.
Good evening. What's going on?
So
Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an echo. I don't know if you're like in a room that's kind of got an echo or whatever. But folks at home, can y'all hear Carter? And one spooky chick says, where can we send our stories? You can send them to me on Facebook Messenger, or you can send them to Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. So Carter, we'll go ahead and try to work with what we got here. If you got me on speaker, maybe that could be what it is, or maybe it's just the room that you're in. But Carter Bichart, everyone. Now, Carter, you and me had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and you were a part of the BFRO. Is that correct?
Yes, I've been with them for since 2013. I no longer do reports for them, but I'm still a member.
Okay, you're still a member. Okay. All right. So, it started out, our conversation started out about Dogman. Now, you have a story about that too. Where do you want to start with this? Because you have so much information, we're probably not going to be able to get it all done. That's why I would like to have a record with you too, with me and Barton when we do our project together. You're one of the people I would like to record with, because you had access to a ton of Bigfoot stories. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I've had 100 reports published to BFRO.
Goodness.
And I've probably spoken to 350, 400 witnesses over the last 12, 13 years. And I've had, like I said, 100 reports published to BFRO, which is a pretty good chunk. So I quit doing reports for them a couple of years ago, but I'm still a member.
Yeah. And so Carter, you said you started in 2013?
Yeah, 2012, 13, somewhere in there.
Okay. And how did you get involved in the whole Bigfoot thing? We'll focus on that for now, the Bigfoot.
Well, I've had an interest, from the time I was probably 10 or 11 at the time. But the way I got hooked up with BFRO was my wife and I took a vacation to Washington State, got a cabin out in the woods in the middle of nowhere on the east side of the mountain range there, and was hoping for an encounter, but one didn't happen. But as we were walking through the woods, I ran into a tree to take a leak, and at the base of this tree was an ammo box that was chained to the tree. I'm thinking, okay, I found somebody's drug stash, because that year Washington State had legalized marijuana, and they were busting a lot of clandestine crops that were in the national forest, and they were cracking down real heavy because it had become legal. So I thought, oh my God, I found somebody's drug stash. But curiosity got the best of me. I went ahead and opened the thing up, and inside it was a geocache game. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was marginally aware, but when I saw it, I went, oh, that's geocache. And so there was a business card in there for a BFRO investigator from Washington State. So I did the traditional thing. You take something of yours, leave it in, you take something out, and you put it in your pocket. So when I got back home, I called the guy and said, hey, how do I get on an expedition and become an investigator? And that was the long and short of it. I got hooked up with the people here in Missouri, went on an expedition. I became an investigator within the next year. I started taking over, and I was running the expeditions for BFRO in Missouri because the guy running them was not doing the job they wanted. So I started running expeditions. And so that's how I got hooked up with it.
And okay, and so you when you started, doing these Bigfoot reports, fielding these Bigfoot reports, and did you go on location, or was it just you getting them by the computer, or how did that work? Like what all did you?
The way the BFRO works, there's people type in reports. Mm-hmm. They come in 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, maybe 100 reports a day. So you can assign a report. You go on the database every morning, check it, and you can assign a report. Hey, that looks interesting. I'll assign it to myself. So it goes off the books and into your stash. Call people up. Hopefully they return the call or return the email. You're probably about 70%, you'll get a conversation going. And so that's how I did. And I have probably met, no exaggeration, I've probably met half the people that I've had reports published. I've actually gone to their home location and talked to them face to face. And that's a great way to gauge somebody, if they're yanking your chain or not. There's a lot of hoaxing going on, a lot of kids playing with the internet. Sasquatch came in and kidnapped my grandmother and had tea with my mother, and then I went to bed, and that kind of crap, kids playing with the computer. But I've met some incredible people. I have 4 habituation properties that I monitor, and I'm allowed to come. In fact, I'm going to one. What is today? I'm going the 17th or 18th of September. I'm going to another property. It's a new one. So I met a lot of people, a lot of great people, a lot of great reports. But a lot of people were devastated and changed forever when they had some of these Class A up close sightings. It just it blows your mind, some of the things these people go through, because if your belief system is X and you see Y and you can't deny it, then all of a sudden your life has changed, and it changes things. It changes things for the people. So it's been an interesting ride. I quit doing reports for BFRO because they sanitize and falsify the data. I can't be a part of that anymore. So I'm still part of it, but I just won't contribute to that. Can't.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What do you mean they sanitize? Like, what does that mean?
They take key data out of reports. They have an agenda, and it's dumb ape or nothing. And so if there's any kind of paranormal, any kind of quantum language, counting, anything that makes him anything other than a dumb ape, it's out of there. And so they sanitized several of my reports, and unfortunately for them, I'm kind of anal with my paperwork. I'm a realtor. I still am a realtor, and I'm a paperwork freak only because you have to protect yourself. So when I get a report, I make a copy. And then when I talk to the people and get their story, because there's so much more information than what they tell you, it's just a brief, fleeting report for the most part. So I get all this other data, and when they sanitize, when I start researching my first books, I started researching my books late 2019, early 2020. I discovered some of my reports had stuff missing. And then I had witnesses calling me up going, hey, what the hell's wrong what'd you do to my report? I'm starting to look at them. I'm going, they took out key information that turns that into a mundane report rather than a mind-blowing report, which it was. And so I said, I can't be a part of this anymore. I probably got about 5 or 6 reports that have been redacted or sanitized. And so the world's largest database, BFRO, is corrupt. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's real or not because stuff's taken out. They have an agenda they want to push. And so I just don't do their reports anymore. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Carter. You're the guest.
I would say, well, any day now they could pull the plug and I don't have access to the database. Mm-hmm. And that's fine, because if that's their game, and Matt Moneymaker has admitted to altering one report, maybe 2. And I was supposed to be on a show with him. Somebody arranged for another podcast, called me up. This has been about 2 months ago, I think, something like that. And he was going to have Matt Moneymaker and some of his cronies on there, and he wanted to discuss. And there's others mentioning this, not just me. There's other investigators and others that know what's going on. And they all put up with it because they want access to the world's largest database. And they'll keep quiet and put up with that garbage for the chance to have access at maybe that one report that blows everything out of the water. And so I was supposed to be on a show. And I agreed to it. And they contacted Matt Moneymaker and his cronies, his couple of 2 or 3 buddies, BFRO guys up northeast somewhere. And they said, well, if Carter's on there, we won't be there. Which spoke volumes. It's like, really? What more proof do I need than that rejection? If he's there, I won't be there. So they didn't have me on the show. He said, we're going to do a show with you later on, which never happened. And I understand why. But at the last minute, he was supposed to be on the show. Matt Moneymaker, his 3 cronies showed up. He bailed out at the last minute. He just didn't show. Oh, I got my calendar mixed up. So he just didn't even show. So that kind of tells you how things are, And so I just can't be a party to the falsification of information. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's true and what's not when you read some of these reports. And the funny thing is, he published my reports after taking out the data. I mean, how stupid is that? If you're going to falsify my report, why even put it up there?
So let me ask you a question, Carter. So a lot of these reports that we're getting, that's what you mean by them being sanitized. But you're saying that so you obviously had access to a lot of reports that involved Bigfoot not just being an ape running around out there, and that they were just
yeah. I mean, speaking, counting, mind speak, all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's gone. But the problem with Moneymaker and BFRO is, like I said, I made a copy of my report that, when you take it off the database, I make a copy right away. And that's what I make a copy of the report as sent in by the witness originally. And then I make notes. I take a copy of the report and make all the notes of all the questions I want to ask them, because between every sentence is 2 more sentences of information I know is there. When these people call in these reports, they're all excited and they're upset and then freaked out, and they're just doing the best they can, and they'll leave a number and email, And so then when I interview them, I type up the final report and you send it into BFRO to be published. And I've made a copy of that. So then when the report gets published, I started checking it against the notes that I had. And lo and behold, I mean, I'm going, how stupid is that? I mean, what balls to do that, And so if there are other investigators that feel the same way. I've had conversations with probably half a dozen of them, and they're upset, but they stay there for selfish reasons, like I do, because I want access to the database in case that one report comes in that just sends things off another direction. And so that's why they're there, and they say nothing, And so it's common knowledge within BFRO and externally. And now you're baptized. How about that?
Yeah, and one of the things I've learned too is I used to think, well, there's two camps, but there's more than that. There's multiple camps and splinters and factions, and it's like that with Bigfoot, but it's also like that with Dogman. There is a movement within the Dogman community, and I'm at the forefront of trying to stop that it is some sort of evolutionary type creature that's an animal. There's even a group that says it on there, like, we are trying to find this animal, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But they are absolutely committed that this is an animal, and that they're going to find some sort of physical proof that it exists, and it may be a physical thing, just like Bigfoot may be a physical thing, but they're also throwing out the entire metaphysical aspect of it, and even to the point where they'll lie, and they'll cajole people, and they'll try to twist and then they'll even flat out tell people, look, you need to say this. And I've dealt with it over and over again with Bigfoot and with Dogman. It just seems to be the same agenda. They just keep pushing this agenda, and why they are so obsessed with this agenda, because they say, well, and one person, I'm not even going to put him on blast because I'm actually on speaking terms with this person, even though we totally don't agree, and they said, well, your view of Dogman and Bigfoot and all these other subjects make us look bad. And I told this person, I said, it makes us look bad? Dude, the average person, when you tell them you've seen a Bigfoot, already thinks you're crazy. So how are you, who are you pandering to that you're trying to make us look good? I mean, it's like, we're already like on the fringes of society here, okay? When I was out at the farm, at my uncle's farm the other day, and I put a picture of some of my buddies, that were out there hunting, and I sat there shooting the breeze with them for a little bit, and two or three of them already know about my podcast, and they're like, hey, he's got a podcast, and one of them, he's a hunter, and he spoke up, and he said, yeah, you get Bigfoot. He goes, I believe, and then two of the other guys started laughing and joking and making, I bet you saw little green aliens too, because that's the response you're going to get. So what does it matter whether it's metaphysical or it's physical or whatever? Why can't the truth just be the truth and let it speak for itself? Because when we started the joking or whatever, and then my friend, one of the guys that I grew up with, told that guy, he's like, hey, Wolf's also a boxer, so let's not, let's, you know what I mean? I'm like, dude, don't laugh and joke with me when it comes to that. I told him, I said, you can laugh and joke and talk about whatever you want, okay? But, let's not get into it with that, because that's something that I actually fight with people quite regularly. And once I began to explain to this person, then they were like, oh, okay. And then they understood how I don't like the jokey, laughy stuff, because I'm not into that. Because
we're all in the same game. We're all trying to find an answer. But everybody wants to be first. Everybody, it's the same for Sasquatch, Mothman, Dogman, the Pale Whites, whatever cryptid mystery creatures out there. Everybody wants to be first. So your agenda sucks and mine doesn't.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of the way it is. It's just kind of, it's ridiculous. It's like I'm in high school all over again when I'm dealing with some of these people, because
it is high school.
Everybody wants to be right. And it's we're all after the same thing. There's no experts. Josh, you're not an expert. I'm not an expert. There are no experts. Otherwise, we know everything. We wouldn't be talking. So nobody knows everything except the government and the paper companies, the ones that deal with these creatures, beings, I'll say. They're not even creatures, they're beings. They're far more intelligent far more intelligent than we give them credit for, you know. And so it's irritating, it's frustrating. It's like being in high school. So I just disassociate myself with some people that are just adamant about, you know, being right. Why can't we discuss and compare data? You know, I'll share stuff that is not confidential or stuff I promised or that the owners of the videos and pictures don't want shared. But that's being respectful, but it doesn't mean I don't have a pretty good clue of what I saw and what this person was saying. And, you know, I can usually spot a faker pretty easily. You know, you can ask a witness the same question 3 or 4 times. You can't remember your lie every time if you're lying. So
changes. It changes.
Yeah, the story changes. I mean, that's police interrogation 101, you know. And so it's frustrating, you know, and I haven't come across, I've come across one Dogman report, and I've come across 2 Dogman reports that were clipped onto the end of a Sasquatch event, which I thought was odd in and of itself. But, you know, they saw them, they described them perfectly. These are rational, almost frightened people. They're almost scared to talk to me because they're afraid I'm going to laugh at them, you know. And that's what happens to a lot of people when they see these beings. They get scoffed at and laughed at. And who laughs at them? The people closest to them: spouses, boyfriend, girlfriend, co-workers, family members.
Kids.
Well, here's Uncle Bob. Let's have him over for Thanksgiving because he saw one of them there Sasquatches.
Yeah, let's make fun.
Pass me a Sasquatch leg, will you?
Yeah.
You know. It's just ridiculous, you know. And you know, we have to create our own science. We have to create our own evidence, because science and the government and the lumber and paper companies are all going to tell you, oh, you're full of crap. So we have to have respect for one another and share our evidence without fear of repercussion. You know, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. That's how the country was built. You know, people agree to disagree and you keep moving, you know. So yeah, it's kind of a frustrating thing, you know, but I think I accidentally may have started a 4th book today. So I'm thinking I'm going to do another one, but I have to get some of the anger and frustration out of my mind thoughts before I start writing, you know, a book, because people don't want to hear the ranting and raving. They just want to hear, you know, just the facts, ma'am.
Well, yeah, but you know, Carter, I share that anger and frustration because I go through it all the time. It's the same situation, because here's somebody said in the chat, Joe Baglodgy says, this lady at work the other day mentioned she didn't believe in hauntings. I told her a few stories, and then she turned around and told me stories. Most people can't admit what may alienate them. And that is something right there. I've been at get-togethers where somebody will mention my show, and I'll try to explain to them. In mixed company, it can be kind of awkward at times, and I'll be like, okay, well, I have a show, and I talk about this. Some people look at you with a blank stare, and then some people will laugh. And then later on, that same person will come to you and be like, okay, look, I had an encounter with something. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe you can help me. And 9 times out of 10, they don't really tell me what they saw. They're not telling me, I mean, in other words, they're not putting a label on it. They're just giving me their story, and I kind of categorize it myself. But, you know, there's always this kind of nervous laughter in the beginning. And Amy from the chat says, ego is killing the field. Yes, that is another problem, because, like you said, it's always about who wants to be first, who wants to be right, and everybody else is wrong. And it just doesn't seem like we're on the same page. But when you have an organization as large as the one you were a part of or are a part of, and there are, like you say, sanitizing, that's an issue, because what happens is you're getting one side of the story. I can't tell you how many times I've been to hauntings or I've interviewed people who've had experiences, and then they'll tell me, now look, this is going to sound crazy, and now the apers will say that the odds are astronomical. You know, that somebody will have a haunting and they will see a Sasquatch or a Dogman. And I'm telling you right now, that happens quite regularly. And I can march 1,000 witnesses, not literally, but you know, a lot of people in front of you, and they'll tell you the same thing. Like I had one that I always, you know, reference this one because I was there when I witnessed some of the phenomena with 3 people. Well, actually 4 people. It was me and 4 people. And they had a ninja blender that went off. And we were there to talk about the stuff that was going on in their house, which was poltergeist activity, but they were also experiencing a Dogman type creature that was coming to the window and talking to their child. And so being in that house for just 20 minutes was enough to make me completely uncomfortable. There were shadow beings in the house. And you can't tell me that there was a haunting going on there, and just by chance, this evolutionary Dogman creature just decided to show up, just by chance. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't sit right with me. And there was communication between the child, and then later the mother saw it, and later after that the father saw it subsequently. But there was a telepathic communication between the child and the creature knew of the shadow creatures in the house and talked to the child about them.
Cool.
Offering protection, which I don't know what the game was to get the child to come outside. I don't know the whole, I never could figure out exactly what was going on with that, but it was a story I had told on another show years ago, and I did follow-up interviews with that particular family. I had another family that lives in Central Texas. They have a ranch, and it's partitioned off into different sections. Different people own it. But I have interviewed the people who live there now and who lived there before, and they've had weird things happening in their house. And then there's these Dogman creatures and Bigfoot type creatures, and they see these things. And you just can't convince me now at this point in the game how far, I guess you want to call it, my career in this field, how far I've come from, when I first started corresponding, way back, with Linda, and then later Ken Gerhardt and Vic. You can't tell me that all of, my journey, starting off from what I saw when I was 15 and thinking it was just a flesh and blood creature, until where I'm at now, and you're starting to get more pieces of the puzzle, and the truth is out there. I mean, it's there. It's just a giant panoramic picture, and we all have little pieces of the puzzle, and we think, oh, we got this piece here, this makes us right. But when you put it all together, then you see. And I really believe that the majority of this is coming from, like, what I call the fourth density or fourth dimension, depending on how you want to categorize it. And I believe that that's where these things are coming from. And it's like, it's so mind-blowing to people to think, hey, these things are not evolutionary creatures. And then somebody mentioned to me the other day, they said, well, how do you explain people seeing woolly mammoths, mastodons, and saber-toothed tigers? Well, I was on with David Weatherly, the author. He was on my show, and we talked about a case. I believe he talked about someone seeing a small woolly mammoth, and I had one that I actually did on my show, Supernatural Sin City, and it was about a saber-toothed tiger. I think it was near Prim, and this thing lunged at this guy, and it like at the last second, he closed his eyes preparing to die, and all it was like dust and wind that hit him. And he was just like, he goes, I know what I saw. He's like, it was absolutely larger than a lion, but it had big tusks like hanging down. And he didn't use the word, like, he didn't say, I saw a saber-toothed tiger. I said, well, it was like a smilodon. Sent him a picture. Did it look something like this? He said, yeah, something, but not totally. But yeah. So when you take all this as a whole, you're dealing with this sort of paranormal soup that these things come out of, and when there are portals that are involved, or there's some sort of haunting that happens, or UFOs, people want to compartmentalize and pick it apart and say, okay, I know UFO researchers, one in particular who we're cordial, but I don't like the way he does things. Like, everything has to be an alien. Like, everything has to be some sort of alien. It has to be to do with the Space Brothers and the Federation and whatever. And I tell them, look, man, it's all part of a greater whole. And this person will not, and you may even know him, but it absolutely will not bend to give you any, Dogman and Bigfoot are aliens. You know what I mean? And that's a problem, because not everything is a demon, not everything is a djinn, not everything is a ghost, not everything is a Dogman, not everything is a Bigfoot. They're all different, but they are all part of the same whole. But trying to get these different groups together, it's like trying to herd cats. I mean,
Yeah, it's mostly a waste of time for me, trying to, you can't convince anybody if you don't have enough of an open mind and open heart, really, to embrace others' opinions, theories, and ideas. Doesn't mean you have to believe in them, and that's what I put in my books. This is, you don't have to believe, but just consider the possibility that this are not exactly what you think. They can't be pigeonholed in certain categories. They may cross genres. You just don't know, but you have to just be open-minded. And here's the thing that does it for me, and I've quoted this so many times, but from the day you exit the birth canal, you are taught how the world is, what's real, what's not, and what can't be, what can't be. There's no UFOs, there's no ghosts, there's no gremlins. Oh, wait a minute, there are UFOs. The government was lying. So you're taught for the first 18 to 20 years of your life, from preschool to maybe college, how the world is. It's put in books. Everything is handed to you, and the government dishes out disinformation. So everybody's got all these factions and beliefs. Oh, that sounds good. I'm going to stick with that. But you're not really researching or opening your mind and heart to what is really going on. Because I think we're really in the midst of an awakening. I have not seen so many Mothman reports, Dogman, Sasquatch in the last 2 years as I have in the previous 10. It's crazy. And there might be an awakening. Of course, some people think we are creating our own reality by just imagining things, and that creates reality. So these things do exist by virtue of our imagination. And that's a whole nother area, that gets into quantum science and quantum physics. Mm-hmm. But the whole thing is, we are divided. And it's not going to change unless everybody wants to change. And not enough of the right people, and I'm not being a snob, but I'm just saying not enough of the right people who have the right mindset and the right head on their shoulders want to change, because everybody still wants to be the $10 million guy on Publishers Clearinghouse. Look at my check. I did it. I discovered a body. Look, I'm it. I'm famous. It's ridiculous. But we're not gonna, but science and the government love our discord. They love it, because we're shitting in our own tree, so they don't even have to do it for us anymore. They just sit back and watch us self-destruct. Excuse my S word if that's offensive, but anyway, you know what I mean? It's just a ridiculous thing, and I've got videos and photos that would curl your toes, but I can't share them because I promised I wouldn't. But I was giving them in confidentiality, so I keep them confident. But I guarantee and there's others in my position too. You yourself perhaps have things you just cannot share because you promised. And that is more important than getting a big star by your name. Look what Josh put out there. Look at that video Carter put out. Oh, wow, that's it, man. That's it for me. That's a holy grail. Well, you don't do that because you made a promise. And
people are terrified too, Carter, because there are people that are terrified that something will happen to them. Here recently, I was told by a witness that they were talked to by a government, and I to this point now to where it's like, whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to sit here and lie and continue to sugarcoat things, because that's not getting us anywhere. And maybe this won't get us anywhere, but if the one thing I achieve through all of this in my work is to let people know that it is all part of a greater whole. That's the thing that I want to people, and it might be a small thing, but I don't think it is. I think that we all working together, and I think that when I did the Dogman conference and I brought all these different people together under one roof, that was one of the goals. There is an overarching goal, but one of the goals for sure. And I hope if we do it again next year that you will show up, Carter, and give your take on things, because I would like to have fresh perspectives, and it's refreshing to talk to someone who has, I think, like, seen the light like I have, because when we talked, I was excited. I was like, wow, I've met a kindred spirit, because you are on the same level as me. You're like, you were right there in the thick of it. You were getting the reports, and you were a part of this organization, and now you're going like, dude, why are we not getting the whole truth? Why is everything being cut down to little bite-sized, little edible chunks that people, so that it tastes good? Yeah, that's great. You're flavoring it, but you're not giving people the whole meal. You know what I mean?
I think part of it is with BFRO, they want to protect their little TV show. So the sponsors want to sell, a lot of tampons, beer, and drugs for old people, and so if you've got paranormal stuff on there, no one's going to watch. And Matt has even told me,
it's a different audience.
We don't want to alienate people because, and you mentioned this earlier, well, if you're talking about, Sasquatch, it's bad enough even trying to convince people they exist. You start throwing in all this other stuff, paranormal, speaking, counting, whatever, that's just going to drive everybody away. I said, you know what? The problem with that mindset is that the people you think you're losing wave goodbye as they leave, because you're going to get a whole nother slew of people that are having these real events that aren't sugar-coated, and you're going to replace them tenfold with the ones that leave out the back door.
That's what I say. That's exactly, me and Barton Nunley literally just had this conversation. It was like, what are you afraid of? Because the wider audience is going to show up to the people who are bringing the whole pie, not just little slices, and like, so yeah, that's what my show, I like to think that my show is doing, is creating a movement, an awakening, and I don't want to make more of it than what it is, and I'm not trying to be king of the world. I'm not even trying to be famous. All I'm trying to do is lay it out there, and my journey began, at point A, and then it got to, whatever, and it went da-da-da-da-da. And I'm interested in working with like-minded people who are trying to get the information to the people and let them decide for themselves. Why do we need to, as you said, that word, sanitize everything so that we can create this narrative, And also, there are some people who really, them following the narrative is actually hurting them. So then you start to wonder, like, and I'm not going to name names, but some of these people seem like they're disinformation. I mean, it's like, you're obviously, like, they'll tell you, okay, well, these things are not, they have nothing to do with the government. They're absolutely have nothing to do with metaphysical, and you're going like, geez, dude, who's paying you? Like, who's paying you to say all this? Because it starts to make you wonder, like, where is this coming from? Because obviously these people have an agenda. It is completely, a agenda. It's an agenda-driven everything. I mean, I don't even know the words to describe it, because I get so aggravated when I think about it and when they say those kind of things. Now, switching up for a second here. Now, me and you began talking about a Dogman case that you had. And
fascinating. Actually, it's very fascinating. Probably in my top 10 investigations ever, and it was a Dogman, or at least I wish we had video because you could post the photo. The story and the photo, and when I met the people. Again, I'm actually meeting these people. I'm not getting the story secondhand, thirdhand, but it was thrust upon me, and the person who sent me the contact was thinking that it was another Sasquatch event, because I was in Illinois to lead a BFRO expedition in 2019. And when I was there, I was kind of going around town, hitting the little cafes and restaurants. Hey, where's a good place to go to, do some research and do an expedition? Well, I'll tell you where you don't want to go is this place here, because nobody will go there after dark. Ain't nobody in town, no hunter, no man, woman, or anybody will go there after dark. It's weird stuff goes on. You don't want to go there. I said, well, that's where I'm going. So as I was gathering this information to put the expedition together, a guy calls me up and says, hey, I've got a guy who I know who's been having Sasquatch problems on his property, and he wants to talk to somebody. And I said, well, I'll go out there. I'm sure. It happened to be really close to the area I ended up going to for my expedition. So the story was some creature, and they thought it was a Sasquatch, for some reason, was attacking this locust tree. Now, you're from Texas, you know locust trees. They got those thorns that are 4 to 6 inches long. They're just brutal. You know, if you get stabbed by one of those, you bleed to death, you know. And it was tearing this tree apart, you know, and they heard it. They saw shadows, but they never could get a picture or get a great sight because it was always in the morning, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So one night, his daughter, she was about 18 at the time, still lived at home, she heard this ruckus going on again, and it was at the back of the house, and her bedroom faced this tree. And so she heard it. She thought she saw something, but she wasn't sure. So she said, screw this, I'm tired of this. So she put on her shoes, got a camera, and ran out to get a picture. And she saw something, a shadow or a shape, and so she raised the camera to take a picture of this tree. The strap on her camera got jerked, and it was this Dogman. It looks like you've seen it. It looks like a Dogman. Could be something else, but it jerked the camera, and it's just slightly out of focus. But I sent you the picture, didn't I? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it does not look like a Sasquatch in any way, shape, or form. It looks like some being. It's got a huge, long snout. According to her, it was still manifesting into a solid entity and it just got tangled up in her camera strap as it was morphing into physicality. And so it jerked her camera, and that's the only picture she got. And when they looked at it, they went, oh my God, it's satanic, it's the devil. Just throw the camera away, put the camera in a drawer, just screw it. The wife, she would not even talk to me. The husband, the owner of the property, the father, he talked to me. He gave me a tour and showed me everything. The wife said, I'm not talking to anybody. I don't want to discuss it. It's pure evil. It's the devil. I don't want anything to do with it. So the camera, the picture was taken in 2018, I think. I'm trying to think. No, I think it was taken in 2014. They developed the film in 2018. They actually took the camera, took it to Walmart and said, deliver these pictures, develop these pictures. And so they are not technologically inclined, so they didn't realize that it had an SD card, it had a film roll. And so they said, you know, just develop the photos and we don't want the camera back. Well, they got the camera back, but they ended up throwing it away. But what they got was this one picture, but they threw away the SD card and the camera. It's gone. So all I could do was take a picture of the picture, put it in the front seat of my car, and took a picture. And I had another investigator with me. I had another partner who was helping with the expedition. Fabulous story. And what do you think of the photo? I mean, is it bizarre?
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't really. It's not the definitive Dogman. It's not what you want to see with the snarling teeth and the ears and all that, but it is in the process, as she described it, of morphing into complete physical creature. And
what you could do, Carter, is post that to the Paranormal Round Table group on Facebook. I believe you're a part of. I think you're a member.
Yeah, I am. Okay, I'll make a
post that on there and let people see, and they can draw their own conclusion. You know, and I know people will say things like, oh, well, it's a blurry photo, blah, 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 whatever. Here's the thing. I keep telling people this, too. Good luck trying to find a photo of one of these types of creatures. 1 million people can see them with their eyes, but the camera doesn't catch that. Because I keep telling you, the nature of these things are not like us. And when they move really quickly. And all you got to do is move your hand back and forth like this. You see how the blur is on the camera? That's all you got to do is do that. And when someone takes a picture, they just see a blurring streak. That's what these creatures do. They move really quickly, and taking a picture of them, they're not going to stand still and pose for you.
Well,
They're
here's
just
another
not.
take on that, is that I believe they can alter their physicality by modifying their chemistry, their vibrational frequency. They can alter their appearance. So if someone, look at all the cameras that were someone's standing perfectly still and they get what looks like a clear shot, but it's blurry. Well, it may not be that it's moving. It may be that it's intentionally altering its appearance so that it appears blurry because they know what a camera is.
Mm-hmm. And they know what guns are too. If you point a gun at one of them, they know. And they react to these things. And like, it goes back to what you were saying about sanitization too. Like, people will give absolute, 100% account of what they saw, and they'll cut it into not necessarily just the organization you're with, but just these counter people. They will cut it into what they want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the guy that I'm going down to visit here mid-September. He sent me a couple of photos, and they are the typical, what you would call pareidolia, where it looks like there's a shadow in a clump of trees. You can see what looks somewhat definitively like a hominid torso, 2 arms, maybe 2 legs, a head, but it's just a little bit, it's in the dark, and it's intentional. But the people are standing right there. And that's my argument against some of the pareidolia claims, is because they're standing right there. I have taken photos where I am talking to myself like, oh God, be still, quit breathing, stop, take the picture, don't breathe, just click. And it should be perfect, and it's not. Yeah. But I'm there and I saw it. So I take away the judgment of the film. I go with the judgment of the person taking the picture. How are they relating the information to me? How are they relating the incident? How are they describing the sounds, the movement of the being, and whatever? And I take that as the evidence. The photo, who cares? Because usually, probably 75-80% of the time, they're not worth looking at. So, but I take the demeanor of the person, and if I know them personally already, it's a done deal. I believe you saw what you saw. You took a picture of what you saw. It just didn't come out by virtue of the creature wanting to alter and change its vibrational frequency just ever so much. And maybe there's a little fear and nervousness on your part when you're taking it, because you're like, oh God, okay, stop. You're trying to take a picture of a one-time event and you can't get it done, I have a really good report in BFRO, a professional photographer in Sam Houston State Forest in Houston, Texas. He was sent out by Texas Monthly Magazine to get a photo of a certain cypress trees and pine trees in the East Texas forest there at a certain time of day, because the magazine wanted these pine trees in the silhouette and the sun coming down behind them, a photo op. So he was standing there with a camera in his hand and one around his neck. He had 2 freaking cameras, a professional photographer. A Sasquatch walks out of the forest right across this clear cut. They're staring at each other. He turns around and walks back into the woods. And then at the time he's going, he couldn't pull up his camera. A professional photographer. This guy takes photos of wars and car wrecks and murders and assassinations and beautiful things and horrible things. And he's a professional photographer. He couldn't do it. And then, to top it off, when he was sitting there visiting with his mind going, what did I just see? Oh my God. A Sasquatch appears behind him. He turns around and looks at him, and he throws a tree over this other big stand of trees, and it lands 15, 20 feet from him in the middle of the clear cut. Again, he couldn't take the picture. He just froze. So there's another reason why we don't get photos, and if you do, they're pieces of crap because people are so freaked. You know, and what's my aperture? I got to get my settings. Well, where's the cover? Oh, the cover's on. You're thinking all these things, and you're not even prepared. And you're a professional. So if they can't do it, how do you expect people like you and me to do it? I mean, you know, you just think about it. You know. It was funny, and he even laughed, and he just regretted. He's going, I can't believe I froze. I don't know what. I'm so stupid. I had 2 cameras. I can't believe I couldn't pull the trigger because he's so shocked at what he's seeing. You know, so there's a professional guy that can't do it. So what do you expect? You know, for John and Mary walking through the woods with a camera phone, what do you expect them to get? You know, not much better. Probably worse. You know, it's just a human condition. You know.
Do you think that these things vibrate on a different frequency? Which
yeah, I think they can. Yeah. I believe they come in. You know, they can come and go in our plane of existence. You know, you mentioned 4 dimensions. You know, the science will admit to up to possibly 11.
11. Yeah.
Theoretically, up to about 2022. Now, height, width, depth, and time are the 4 dimensions us humans experience. And time is a human construct. Time does not exist in the outside world. Animal world, nothing. Sasquatch, Dogman, nothing. Time is nothing. I get up at 7 o'clock and eat breakfast. I get up when the sun is between those 2 mountaintops. You know, they don't tell time because time is, like I said, it's a human thing. So, you know, we operate on different levels, you know, and so if they can come and go, and I believe, you know, quantum science will dictate that this is possible. Scientists, although I do not favor science as a spokesperson for anything that we're talking about, because they're one of the bigger liars in this whole scheme of things, along with the government.
They have been for centuries.
Yeah, but they will admit that quantum science, quantum physics, quantum math dictates that all the things that you and I are discussing are theoretically possible. And the only way to disprove them is with more quantum science and math. You can't just say, I don't believe it, that's not possible. You have to prove that it can't be using the same methods they used to determine that it is indeed possible. Otherwise, they don't recognize it. So that's an admission on their part that, you know, some of what we're saying, although it's not with the same subject matter that they're saying it, but they're saying that, you know, the quantum things with the vibrational frequency and things of that nature. Ron Moorhead's a great example of knowledge of that stuff. You know, he wrote he did commentary in my first book. He's a real good guy, a friend of mine. But, you know, so science will admit to certain things, but only if they think of it. You know, somebody else comes up with, well, no, that's not possible. You know, it's, you know, science and the government are not our friends. Neither are the paper companies and lumber companies, because I know they deal with these beings all the time. You know, Sasquatch for sure, probably Mothman, Dogman. You know, I've taken 2 reports of Sasquatch with Dogman tacked on the end. And the funny part of these reports is they're describing the Sasquatch sighting at night, you know, white Sasquatch walking through a cornfield and all this other stuff. And then they're going, well, now I'm going to tell you something you're not going to believe. And so I'm going, okay, you just told me about a white Sasquatch walking through a cornfield at midnight, and now you're going to tell me something I'm not going to believe? Who's crazy here? Come on, tell me. What is it I'm not going to believe? I've already listened to your story, and I believe your story about the Sasquatch sighting. So what are you going to tell me that I won't believe? And so they go into this Dogman description. It's kind of funny. You see how, you know, they're defensive about the Dogman, but they're not so defensive about the Sasquatch, because that's almost a given. I'd say probably 40 or 50% of the people consider that it's quite a possibility, you know, in the country, you know, but there's more of us that don't believe, you know, that they just can't be. And that's because we're taught how to think from the day we come out of the birth canal. And so if you're told these things don't exist, can't be, whatever that is, you know, cloaking, mind speak, disappearing, going interdimensional, well, that doesn't exist. So when you see it, you're obviously going to fill in the blanks in your mind with something that it could be. Yeah, well, I was mistaken. It must be a guy in a ghillie suit. It must be a dog walking up on its hind legs, or sometimes bears walk on their hind legs only because they have a hip damage, leg damage. You see that often. You see videos of bears walking on their hind legs only. So they could be mistaken for a Sasquatch. So, but we're taught how to think. So when you see anything in the metaphysical, paranormal, cryptid world, that you're told doesn't exist, well, it doesn't exist because your mind's going to fill in the blank and explain it away, and you're going to go about your business. It's an unfortunate thing, but we're educated, to think that way. And you only with an open mind, when you get to be a certain age, you go, that doesn't make sense. I kind of snapped to everything when I saw Leonard Nimoy doing In Search Of with the Patterson Gimlin film. That was it for me. That sold me because I already had in my head, I already had a feeling, and I can't go into that now. I won't because it takes too much time. But I had other awareness that there was other things going on in the world. Other than what they told us wasn't. The things they told us wasn't going on was going on. So.
When we were, this discussion is we're going down the rabbit hole here, but when you touching on what you said, how like science is the way people, it's so hard when I tell people, like they say, okay, some of the things I talk about sound like it's some sort of magic. Well, I tell people magic is just science that hasn't been discovered. It's science eventually will catch up to it, and it will become part of what we know as science. And we are, at our very core, spiritual beings, and we, like these entities, are having a physical experience. Yeah. And when we pass, we are not burdened by this flesh. It's just that these beings are able to come out of the fourth density, in my opinion, and come into our density and then go back and forth. They're able to move because they know where to go. We don't. We are kind of in this matrix, and people don't understand. And one of the things I did for years is I would coach fighters, and I would teach people how to do certain things, and they would always tell me, I don't know how to do this, and I would tell people there's only a couple things I can't teach you. One is to be faster. I can make you faster, but I can't teach you how to be fast. You're either fast or you're not. Yeah. But one of the things I can teach you is how to make that spirit, mind, body connection, because with enough heart and enough stick-to-itivity, you can condition your brain. And people don't realize this. They think that the brain, like people that are very left, they're on that left side of the brain, they think that all that there is just the brain and it powers the body, and that's all there is to it. And they get caught up in the minutia of the psychology of everything. What they don't understand is there's something that supersedes that, and that is your spirit. And if you can tap the spirit into the connection to the brain, then the brain can do amazing things. And then the brain can jumpstart and be a cattle prod for the body. When the body wants to fail, I believe that there are times when the brain says, okay, I'm overloaded, I'm hurting, I can't lift this, I can't do this, I can't do, I can't do what is being asked of me. And at some point, there is a spiritual essence that takes over and says, yes, you can, because you are being confounded by and being tripped up by your physical, the physicalness of your reality that you're in. But it really isn't the true reality. I tell people this all the time. This is not necessarily fake, counterfeit, whatever. Some people will believe that, but it is sort of a matrix, and it is knowing how to manipulate that matrix, which completely comes from the spirit. There is nothing that you can do with the brain that doesn't come from the spirit. There have been people, okay? There was a story of a guy who did security for like 20 years, and I believe it was in Illinois, and it might have been, I think it was, me and Ken had a conversation about it last weekend, and it was not James Edwards, Stephen Edwards, I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote these books about Frank Edwards. And they took like these small little like abbreviated versions of his books, and you could get them in the grocery aisle when you're checking out as a kid. And one of the stories I read was about a guy, and you can look this up and find it, whatever, but he was a security guard, and for 20 something years he worked he was a very highly functioning individual. He wasn't on the spectrum as far as they know. He would read the newspaper, he would watch TV, he interacted with his wife, blah blah blah. Well, one day he died, and they didn't know what had happened, so they did an autopsy, and they found out that 90% of what was in his skull was just water. Like, literally, all it was like brain fluid. And he had just a bit of a brain stem toward the back, like he had the amygdala, that was about it. And you're going like, how is this even possible? Well, you can take certain creatures that have virtually no brain, like a crawfish, they have like a series of nerves and like a little bitty, whatever you want to call it, if you want to call it a brain, whatever. But it can do all these things, and you're like, how is that even possible? Well, it's because we don't really know or understand. Science is incomplete. It doesn't understand the brain. It doesn't really understand how it works. There have been people who've been speared through the head by objects in the head, and they live the rest of their lives perfectly normal.
Yeah.
But then there's been people who've been hit in the head, and they can no longer talk correctly, or they can't do math. Because their right or left temporal lobes have been damaged. And then there are people whose thermostats get broken because they get hit in the back of the head in certain spots, and they're always hot or they're always cold, and their body doesn't function correctly. We really don't know much about the brain, but what we do know is that there are neural pathways that can be reproduced and recreated with people who've had strokes and things like that. But I think at some point the spirit takes over and says, okay, I'm going to repair this system that is in place so that I can continue to use this vessel. And I think those people are spiritually powerful people. But I believe that that's what these creatures are. They are literally just spiritual beings that enter into our world. They take on the flesh suit that we're always a part of. And they can do things that seem out of this world. And I think the longer that they're on this plane of existence, the more physical they become.
Yeah. Here's a theory, and I firmly believe this, is that all the powers that we were alleged to have way back, let's go back to Egyptian, Atlantean days, levitation, mind speak, things of that nature. We have progressed all these spiritual and brain activities out of our heads and bodies because we have computers that do everything. We have cars that take us somewhere. We have airplanes. We have grocery stores. We have everything we have invented takes a little bit of our energy and tosses it, because we don't have to learn and hone our skills anymore because we have physical objects to do things for us. So we don't have to learn and experience that stuff, and meditation and things like that do help us. But we, the powers, the skills that these beings have, Sasquatch or otherwise, Dogman, Mothman, all these, they still operate on that level. And they can come and go at will. We could, and probably did, used to do that. How did they build the pyramids? With, 10,000 Nubian slaves with wooden rollers up a 45-degree incline? Sure. You know what I mean? Machu Picchu, et cetera, et cetera. We had the skills to do these things, perhaps with or without some alien technology at the time. We were probably in contact with those people as well. So we're just blithering bodies of flesh, that eat, sleep, and poop. That's about all we do. We have things that do things for us. So we are pretty helpless. We can't see at night. Any creature on the planet can see better than we do at night. So, if you go out in the woods at night and you're creeped out by stuff, well, if you're, in tune with your higher powers, you might be able to see these things, So we have to have equipment. We have to spend thousands of dollars on thermal equipment to see at night, so the boogeyman doesn't get us. It's just kind of funny and kind of pathetic, because we've progressed and we're humans and we are the masters of the planet. Yeah, well, we're masters of everything and masters of nothing at the same time. It's just kind of fun. It's oxymoron.
Yeah, we think we're at the top of the food chain. We really aren't.
Oh, well, no, we are the food chain.
Yeah.
We are the food chain. What's for dinner tonight? I'm going to have a little Josh with some Carter for dessert.
Yeah. Well, you know what you were saying about the pyramids, our colleague Nick Redfern wrote a book recently, and he posted it on his Facebook about the pyramids, and he was, promoting it and at the conference. And one of the things I noticed was a bunch of people were jumping on him and just going after him, just being real nasty to him on his Facebook about his book. And they're like, oh, enlighten us how, this anti-gravity built this pyramid, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, well, you can read the book and find out. And people were he hadn't even read the book. The book hadn't even been released, and people were just jumping all over him because he is destroying, by writing a book about that, it's destroying the narrative that they want to believe. Yeah. It is disrupting their perfect world and saying, hey, there could be another thing out here that has caused this. And they don't want to, there is no budging. They want to believe that when they want to believe. And that's unfortunate.
Well, that's why I don't do these, Bigfoot conferences. I've been invited to a few, but it's just a dog and pony show for the same agenda. They don't have any paranormal, metaphysical, or quantum type discussions, speakers. They have, well, look at these pictures I got. They're blurry, but they got a red circle around them, so they're pretty good. It's the same. It's the same stuff. Everyone's pushing the same story. They all got books and T-shirts to sell. And of course, I'm crapping on my own parade because I've written books, but I don't go out. I'm not proactive in that nature. I'm trying to be a witness advocate. Is why I write my books, because I want to give people who have had these experiences the courage to come forward. If they read my book and they hear me on podcasts like yours, I do 60 or so of these podcasts every year. So, I got people calling me and emailing me and telling me, oh my God, I'm so glad, can I talk to you? And they're telling me something that nobody would ever talk to them about. If they did, they laughed at them and scoffed at them. And so they just shut up. So they will be scoffed into submission where they say nothing for the rest of their lives. And it eats at you internally, And so I'm just trying to be a witness advocate, get the stories out. Nobody's names are used or locations or anything. Here I go. I sanitize their data, but in a way to protect their identity and location, their property location. That's the only falsification is just, I promise, and I always keep the promise. No one will ever know who you are or where you are by the story in the book. Because if it happened in Arkansas, my story takes place in New England. And you just don't know. Because I just want the story out. Because, and I've had several dozen people call me or email me. Oh, I saw your story. Oh, I read your book. I got the Kindle version. I read your book. Oh my God, that happened to my uncle. He's just scared to death to talk to anybody. And, I get stories and I get reports, and they feel so much better because they can talk to somebody who's listening and giving alternative potential explanations. Well, this could be this or could be that. But honestly, what you're telling me, I believe you. I believe what you say happened. I can't find a way to disprove it. I can't find a way to put something else in there as an alternative, because what you said is so specific and so accurate as to what other people tell me. You're nothing but the truth. So you're good. Don't let anybody crap on your parade. Just believe what you believe, tell your stuff. And if it's okay with you, I might put your story in my next book, because the more people read, they get a little courage to come forward, even if it's only a few people. I'm happy, Because they'll tell somebody, right now, somebody, your girlfriend, my wife, me, I know somebody who's had an experience who hasn't shared it for fear of ridicule. You don't even know them. You probably talk to them every day, and there's somebody you would never know had an experience because they just aren't ready to come forward because they're afraid of ridicule. It could be your pharmacist. It could be the person at the video store or whatever, somebody you see on routine. You just don't know. And people have these experiences. You don't have to be in the woods to have them. You could have them, at a stoplight. I got so many weird reports you wouldn't even believe. Some of them I'm on the fence with, actually, because they're so outlandish, but they come from people I know and vetted witnesses, Native Americans who live on reservations, and they confide things in me they won't tell to most white guys, And so when you hear these things, you're going, boy, if it wasn't you telling me this, I'd think you might be on something. And if you're on something, can you get me some of that shit? Because I want it, But the whole thing is, you want to tell these stories, you want to have these discussions like you and I are having. So somebody right now is going, I'm going to call Josh, I'm going to call Carter, because I got to get this off my chest. Is that how it happens for you every now and then?
Yeah, all the time, because a lot of people don't want to listen to what they have to say, because some people are experiencers, which means they can see beyond the veil, and I'm one of them. And when people are like me, and they don't know what to make of it. They have multiple experiences. Well, the average flesh and blood is going to say, "Oh, that's impossible. You can't have that many experiences." That's because they're not an experiencer and they don't understand that. Because it would be impossible for them, because they don't have that.
Well, if your mind's not open to it, you won't have it anyway.
Yeah, you're closed off to it, and you're not using, your spirit is really just dormant.
You'll misidentify it. And here's the weird thing. I am in fairly regular contact with a Sasquatch or a small clan, 2, 3, or 4 of them. I made contact in 2019. I've been back to the location every year like clockwork in October. And every year I have other things going on that tell me I'm on the right track and I am in communication with these beings. Now, that is 325 miles away from my home. When I come home, I have weirdness in my house. And it's not satanic, it's not evil. I think it's a couple of juveniles jacking with me sometimes. My wife experiences, we've had weird stuff going on routinely since 2019. Some of it before, but since my contact with a being or beings in this clan in Illinois, I'm in routine conversations or contact of some type, visions. I'm showing things in my head at night when I'm going to sleep, and I'm not dreaming. I'm awake. I'm just not asleep, but I'm seeing vistas and dioramas. If you see, it's like I'm going through a forest. I'm moving forward, but the forest is also moving past me. It's moving much quicker than I am actually moving myself. So it's just one of those weird things. It's like watching one of those old black and white cartoons. But anyway, so there's things going on, and just when I think, oh, they forgot me, I get another shoulder tap. I got one about 2 weeks ago. So there's always something to remind me that they're aware of me because I'm aware of them, and it's ongoing. It's just crazy. And my wife is even, I had an experience in Illinois, the same location I was talking about, 2019, when I was leading this expedition. I had an event that happened when I went back in 2020. Happened about 11 o'clock at night. Almost at the same time in my home in Kansas City, 325 miles away, my wife is seeing blue orbs flying through our bedroom. Not a coincidence. No. It just doesn't happen. I don't believe in coincidences. So they were in contact with me before that, but they were contacting me at the spot of my original intervention or interaction, and they were letting my wife know, or in case I was already home, that with a blue orb. And many people report blue orbs with Sasquatch or other beings. It's just a weird thing, but it just tells you, if you have an open mind or paying attention, there are other things going on. You just have to forget what you've been taught and believe what you have learned on your own. And that will set you free. That will show you the truth and the path, whether you choose to keep going down that path is a whole other story, But it's a fascinating world. Are we about out of time? It's 10:30. I don't know what your time is.
Yeah, I mean, we're approaching, because I usually
I
go.
didn't want to be rambling on here, but that's a really cool conversation. But there's just there are those that believe a certain way, and I feel no disdain for them unless you become hateful towards me.
I feel sorry for them, really, because they don't.
You're just kind of a prick. I'm sorry that I'm sorry. I'm sure your mother kicked you out of the nest as soon as she could, But you're a prick, and that's just the way it is. But we have differing opinions. Doesn't mean you have to be hateful. I don't hate or disrespect you because I don't believe the way you believe. Everybody has an opinion. It's your view of the world. And that's one thing I try to tell the witnesses too. It's your reality when you experience something and you're not on drugs, you're not schizophrenic, you're not paranoid schizophrenic. Schizophrenia and paranoid schizophrenia are the only two medically proven things as of right now that will make you hallucinate and see things that really are not there unless you're on drugs. PTSD on occasion will make you do the same thing. But as a rule, if it's just you and me walking through the woods, Josh, and I see something, well, I saw it. I'm not crazy. I saw it. If I can define it, if I just say, well, I saw a black shape and looked humanoid, well, that's all it was. But if I can define it and go, I saw a creature with red eyes, and it was looking at me, and those eyes were like 12 feet up in the tree. So it's either up in the tree or it's 12 foot tall. And, you just, that's your reality. No one can take that away. They can criticize you. They can shame you. But you saw it, and if you are truthful with yourself and you go, I know I saw that. I'm not making it up. What purpose would I have for making it up? I don't want any attention. Certainly not the bullshit attention I'm getting here where people are making fun of me and ridiculing me, including my own wife. I got to sleep on the couch because she thinks I saw a Sasquatch. And I hear stories like that. So your reality, you can't take that away from you. And you may not be able to convince other people, but it's yours and you own it. You may not get an answer for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, 20 years.
So Carter, what we got to do is we got to record with you. We want to do a record. Me and Barton Lindley are doing a project where we're going to be doing a series of interviews, and I would like you to be one of those, and where you can come on and actually talk about multiple cases that you've studied and encountered. Would you be willing to do that?
For $10,000.
Well, I don't have $10,000 to give you, but
I'll do it for free. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Is that your final offer? I'll take it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that'd be cool. Just we gotta get time. I'm kind of booked into like October, pushing November now. But just have a time frame and just give me a rough format. Is it gonna be a video thing?
Yeah, no, just pre-record for my podcast. Me and Barton Lindley are doing a series of like discussions, interviews with Bigfoot and Dogman. So yeah, they definitely want to get you on to do that, and we can talk more. Just now that the people on my channel are acclimated to you, they know who you are, and I'm sure they're going to have a million questions for you. And maybe we can do this again. But just let me know. I mean, I'm in the same time zone, so time's not an issue. So just let me know. Just give me plenty of notice. And sometimes people get cancellations, and so I get booked. Like I just got booked for Thursday because somebody canceled at the last minute on. I don't even remember what the podcast is now. Just let me know. Just give me some notice. Yeah, no problem. Cool. Okay, Carter, I'm going to let you go, man. It was good talking to you.
Awesome. This was awesome, Josh. I really appreciate it. I wish I could see your face, but that's just.
Well, Carter, tell the people before you go about your books really quickly.
Okay, my books, they are Sasquatch Evidence of an Enigma. There's 2 books, Enigma 1 and Enigma 2. They are full color. If you buy them straight from me instead of Amazon or Beyond the Free Publishing, I have a book deal with them. But if you buy them straight from me, I sell them both for $35 and I autograph them. They're really nice. They're full color with nice glossy paper, heavy stock. They're really the nicest Sasquatch books, quality wise, you're going to get. You may not agree with all the material because some of it gets very quantum and esoteric, but it's I don't even say the word woo, but it's the paranormal on steroids, some of it. Actually, one of my witnesses that's in the book who dealt with these creatures for 50 years. He's being interviewed by Sibylla Irwin right now on her thing. She's drawing the creature that she drew for my book, which he's on there now, which he never comes at. He's a recluse. Anyway, so you can get those books. Email me, sqexplorer@gmail.com, Sasquatch, sqexplorer@gmail.com. And I can get the details to you, but they're good books. I sign them and everything. And so that's it. And SQ Explorer, if you want to ask me some questions, you got questions or you have a report you want to share with me, let me know. That's it.
All right, Carter, I'll be in touch for sure. Thank you.
All right, Josh, good evening, sir. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too.
All right, man. We'll see you.
All right, good night.
Bye-bye.
So that was Carter Bouchard, everybody. And I've been talking to him for a while, and friend of mine, good guy. I like him. I will be right back. I have to do something really quickly. The door is closed here. I will be right back. Okay. Lose people. So give me your opinions. Tell me what you think. That was Carter Bouchard. Gonna do some recording with him, hopefully. I'm gonna be doing a bunch of shows that I'm gonna be recording, and then I'm gonna try and drop them, like I said, just in time for the Halloween season. So me and Barton got a lot of work to do. So Barton, if you're listening, get ready. Because we got to get started. I do believe I'm going to be on a show. Let me see here. I'm going to be on a show coming up. It's either tomorrow or the next day. Now I got to find it. It is a show that's based out of England, but I had agreed to do it, and now I'm trying to find it. I wanted to make sure y'all knew that you can catch me on there. Great. Well, anyways, what I'm going to do is I will post it to the... Okay, I don't know where it's at, but anyway, I'm going to be doing a show. I believe it's tomorrow or the next day, and I'll post a link to it on the Paranormal Round Table group. I'm also going to be on Spaced Out Radio. Oh, because I had to cancel, and then Bettina took my slot. So let me... September 7th, I'm going to be on Space Out Radio Saturday, September 17th. And I don't even know what time that is. But we have a little bit of time because I'll let you know between now and when it because I'll be doing a show next week. Now, next week I'll have Mark Hendu on to talk about his Dogman experience. So, like I said, that was Carter Bouchard. I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. We had a great time. We told some stories. Give me your input, folks. I want to know if you're in the chat and you're listening to me and you hear me talk, whatever. Send me a friend request on Facebook, but please let me know that I hate to have to sit there and type, are you a listener of PRT? Because I don't know. Let me know that you are a listener of PRT, and then we can chat back and forth. That's the easiest and most convenient way to do it, but you can also do it through Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. I get a lot of emails too. And just let me know. And so we can communicate. And if you have stories to tell, and if you speak well and you think you want to tell your story yourself, which a lot of people don't, they choose to just give the story and then tell me, go ahead and tell it, because I'm supposedly this great storyteller and I retell people's stories really well. That's what people say. I'm not saying that's me, but people give me credit for that. So, but if you want me to tell your story, that's fine too. That's what I do. I mean, I'm fine with that. But if you want to tell your story and you speak and you're not nervous, or even if you are a little bit nervous, but you speak good, come on. Tell the story yourself. John Platt says, hey, Wolf, late to the party, but I will catch up what I've missed on the live stream and the replay. Yep. You do that, man. Check it out, John. Ryan Ainley says, I'm very thankful this viewpoint's starting to gather traction. Great guests and awesome to hear you put the idea out there. Like I said, I think we're on the verge of something, and the old guard is falling. And, I'm not a Nietzschean person per se, but that which is falling should be pushed. Why suffer it to be around? I mean, all it does is stifle. Oh, you didn't see that. You saw a bear. That's what you saw. That was two bears. They were in the middle of, having a good time. They're rolling around together. You didn't see that. Right? Like, it's ridiculous. Wait, hold on. Getting the call here. Yeah, hello? Oh, really? I was supposed to email you my encounter? Really? What I saw was what? Oh, okay. All right, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Okay, so I'm being contacted by a major organization, and they're actually telling me that what I saw was an escaped bear. That there was a circus in town about 200 miles away, and the bear actually hitchhiked from the 5 counties over to my county, and that it happened to be there on Halloween night when I saw what I saw. So let me get back to it. I'll just put him on speaker. Yeah, are you there? Yes, I'm here, Mr. Turner. What you saw was a bear. It escaped from a zoo. Wait, whoa. I thought you said a circus zoo, and it actually hitchhiked. We can corroborate this with 13 or 14 other people. Really? Can you give me their name? No, I can't. Back to what I was saying, and also it absolutely was not something that could have been created in a lab or tampered with by any sort of government entity whatsoever. Geez, you know all that? Yes, we do. We know everything. Okay. Do you guys remote view? This is not the men that stare at goats, Mr. Turner. Nothing is unusual or weird. These are apes that are running around and people misidentify. Oh, okay. But what I saw it did not exist. Okay, I thought you just told me it was a bear. It's a figment of your imagination. Bear that in mind. Goodbye. Click. Wow. Jeez, let me look at the caller ID. Who was this? Unknown number. Wow. Well, I guess that settles it, folks. What I saw when I was 15 was a bear. There's no convincing you otherwise, old chap. That's what it was. And if you think otherwise, you're crazy. Back to the business at hand. Send us your stories, which we'll cut into paper dolls. This is what I'm talking about, folks, okay? You're not going to tell me what I saw. I don't want your input, really. I don't want, nobody needs to try to tell me about what I saw. I don't need your input. There were several other people that saw it. I don't need anybody in any shape or form telling me or giving me ideas about what I saw. I know what the freaking heck I saw. And you're never going to change my mind. In fact, my friend Linda wrote a book called I Know What I Saw. I have the book. It's signed. It's right there in my office. You're not going to change my mind. Now, this guy who's a very popular guy tells me that I need to send him, I need to type it up and send it to him. I said, I will get on that as soon as I get on the paring knife to carve out my eyeballs. Then I will get on what you asked me to do. I got things to do. I got an order. I got things I got to do. Right there with pulling my fingernails out, too. Because it is very important for me to give you my story so that you can have it in your database. Very important. Overbuilt Automotive says, I tell you, sir, I saw a man-bear-pig human hybrid, a rare breed. Yes, that is probably what it was. It came from a circus, zoo, taco stand, some crap. I don't know. That's where it came from. And if you want to believe that, now I'm not saying that there aren't giant apes running around out there, but I'm saying that they're not all going to be physical. In fact, most of them I don't believe are. I think they are, but they aren't. We are not totally physical. If you follow what I'm saying, we are spirits inside of a flesh body. That's what we are. Why would they be any different? You can take pictures of us as we pose for them. Have you ever tried to take a picture of somebody running? Like actually running and just try to take your camera phone and take a quick picture? Looks like a blur. Something to think about. I got another picture that I believe, I think it was sent to me by Kevin Moorfield. Kevin, you can put that on the Paranormal Round Table group page too and tell me what they think. It looks almost like a Dogman materializing in someone's garage. I mean, people are going to be like, it's blurry. You can see the legs. I mean, but it's no different than what other people say they see. Not everybody can see can get a good look at these things. I mean, there are people out in the field for years, and they barely catch a glimpse of one. So, I mean, people tell me I'm lucky because I saw what I saw, but I would take that. I would take it back in a heartbeat because I don't want to see that. And what I'm not going to sit here and do is be ridiculed or give people, I don't need your opinions on what I saw. I don't. And I don't need to be told that I didn't see it. Because to me, that's amazing dumb. So, anyways, we're going to post the link to the show on the Paranormal Round Table group. We will post it, and I will pick a winner, maybe two. And if you've never left a comment before, do it, because we try to pick people who haven't won. And then if we don't find somebody who hasn't won, then we pick somebody who has, and they win again. So leave a comment. Paranormal Roundtable group. Go join the Paranormal Roundtable group. It's free. And you might learn something. And so that... Oh, hold on. I'm getting a call here. Yes, hello? Hey, man. Oh, God. Yeah, what's up, Dogman Whisper? I heard you talking about me. You joined a group that I'm in. And I told the guy, he need to kick you out of that group. Because it's you crazy, man. Yeah, I know. I remember I joined the group. And, I'm not going to be an admin in that group. But yeah, I told him he needed to kick you out. Okay, you already said that. What you saw that day was totally flesh and blood, man. Okay. No such thing as just a physical creature that becomes a spiritual and then it becomes a physical. Always a physical at the same time. One time physical. Hold on one second. I got him on mute. Guy's loco. So I know what you're doing, man. I know you're making fun of me on your show. I'm watching you right now make fun of me pretending to talk on the phone. Pretending to talk on the phone? Yeah, you're talking into a phone case. I'm watching you right now, very angry. Well, that's weird. That's kind of like a paradox. There you go again with that weird spirit talk. You're crazy, man. It's all physical. Goodbye. Whew. I don't know how he knew that, but I guess he's been stalking me. And there you have it, folks. You heard it from the man himself, the Dogman Whisperer. These are all physical creatures. Can't possibly be anything other than that. And I'll leave you with that tonight, folks. Lord Worthington has been tracking these creatures for decades, and not once has he ever been able to take a clean shot at one of them. I wonder why. I have had the Dogman Whisperer on multiple expeditions. He's taking me to all the habitual sites, habituation, whatever the word is. Not once have I seen one. Anyways, we'll be back next week. Same time next week. I got a lot of projects going on, and hopefully, if you or someone you know would be interested in being interviewed by me or Daniel Jones about the alien abduction or UFO phenomena, let me know. Because we're going to be conducting a series of interviews. Bartonelli and I are going to be doing interviews with people for the cryptid thing. Whatever. Feel free to send your ghost stories, and I'll retell them on the show. We love you. Good night. Crazy, man. Talking about this Dogmans, man. They all physical, man. You need to stop it talking about that, man. John Doe, PRT is basically Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club, John, okay? We don't talk about Fight Club. Michelle G would like to be interviewed. Let me know what you've seen. Send me a message. Good night.